Next week we'll be in Las Vegas Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Big 12 Media Days on Tuesday and Wednesday from Allegiant Stadium. And so what a great time to kind of reflect back on what we've seen for the first 6 months of the year when it comes to all 16 of the Big 12 football teams. We'll be doing that for you right now. And, by the way, every single program, we'll break it down with analysts and more right here on 365 Sports Tonight. I'm getting mixed up and crossed. Okay, it doesn't need to be that. 3, 2, 1. Next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 365 Sports will be broadcasting live from Las Vegas. Tuesday and Wednesday from Big 12 Media Days inside Allegiant Stadium. So what a better day to sit down and look ahead and summarize what we've seen for the first 6 months with all 16 Big 12 football teams right here on 365 Sports. Kansas State football coach Chris Kleiman with me. David Smoke, 365 Sports. It's always great to have the head coach of the Wildcats with us. It's kind of is there ever a downtime anymore? There used to be a chance to kind of breathe and get away, but is that even the case anymore in college athletics as a football coach?
Well, for sure not in the month of June. We've made May and June really busy. Not any downtime. I hope everybody in our profession does shut it down for a few weeks in July. I know you're still texting and communicating with recruits, but with the grind of what our season is, we're going to shut it down for a handful of weeks here to start July. But no, it's few and far between anymore.
Did you gain what you needed to gain, one, through what you signed, of course, back in December and then February, but also the transfer portal? Seems like you got a nice chunk that came in.
We'll find out. We're with our guys right now. We have workouts with them, and there's a couple of position meetings and things. So you're watching the guys go through conditioning with our strength coaches. The thing that we've got to find a way in college athletics to figure out, or college football, to figure out is you lose kids in the portal after spring ball, you bring some more kids in, and then you don't get a chance to practice with those guys until August. And so all you're doing right now is watching them condition and maybe having a meeting with them now and then, but you're not really getting a chance to practice those guys until August. And so that's it's going to be a busy month of August trying to learn your team again.
Well, as far as the after post-spring drills and whether there's a scrimmage game or even none, and then you have the possibility of people leaving. How frustrating can that be? Does that change the way you went about what you did? And then on top of that, do you feel like there's a chance that you could have maybe a midsummer type, I don't know, practice type deal where you guys get about 3 to 5 days or so?
Yeah, I would like us to go to an OTA model similar to what NFL does in the month of June, because I go out there now and I know that's our roster. That's who we're going to have. Nobody can leave. We're not bringing anybody else in. That would be ideal. The spring ball stuff is great from a development standpoint, but in the same respect, are you developing them for somebody else? Are you developing them to get ready for your season, for not sure if they're going to leave your program? We were fortunate. We didn't lose. I think we lost one kid is all at the spring portal window. So our spring practices are with our roster, but we did add some other guys. And some of that is just the kids that didn't mid-year enroll. Those kids showed up in June. We're just watching. These are high school kids, and we're just watching them work out. I'd love it if we were able to have an OTA-type mini camp like the NFL with your roster that is intact in June.
Well, it seems like it's basically almost even free agency, so why not attach NFL-type OTAs? I think that's a great idea. Let me ask you this. Have you ever thought, or has it ever been something that has been discussed about maybe in August – after a couple of weeks of practice, of having some sort of scrimmage against somebody else that is live and not just practicing against yourself, or maybe during the end of spring?
I know it's been talked about. If you did, it would be still a lot of young guys playing, because if it doesn't truly count, are your best players really going to go and risk injury?
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, some of that is the bowl game now.
Yeah.
If you have people leaving your program because they went in the portal in December, which we had last year, we played a lot of young guys in our bowl game, especially on special teams, where we got a pretty good evaluation of those guys. You got to practice them for 3 weeks, then you got to play a bowl game. Got some guys some reps that maybe didn't have as many reps during the season, whether we had attrition, whether we had people not playing in the bowl game from injury, whatever it may be. Not having that game count, I think, is a step in the right direction. But everybody's numbers at specific spots, you're developing depth. You usually know who your starters are, not where the depth is at. That's why I would love for us to get our hands on them in June. That's more important to me than getting our hands on them in April.
Jake Clifton left to go on a mission trip. Also, you were able to kind of fill that, I guess, with the portal. And the other question I had, and whenever I've talked about K-State, is Avery Johnson. We know how dynamic he is. We've seen him. He threw the ball more in the bowl game than he did almost the entire time he played during the season with Will Howard. But you still need that insurance policy. How much did Taquan Roberson bring that to your roster and depth chart?
We hope it did. Once again, we were on Taquan in May, so we didn't get a chance to practice him, but he's played, and that's the biggest thing.
Right.
We've got a talented quarterback room. It's a really young room, and I think bringing Taquan and that experience of an older guy that's played a lot of football, been in a lot of quarterback rooms, I think it's going to provide some maturity, some wisdom, and he's willing to. He wants to compete his tail off, and he's going to. But he also wants to be there and help. And I think the other thing is getting a guy like Matt Wells. And when I hired Wellesley, when I got Matt, you're familiar with him, and as I am through his days at Texas Tech and Utah State, to get an experienced guy that's been a play caller, been a head coach, been an OC, to be your quarterback and co-OC coach, it's really going to help our offense and help our Qs.
Avery Johnson, what he brings to the table, obviously a dynamic runner, and what Coach Wells can help with the passing game and watching him develop as a passer. How dynamic is he?
He's really special. He's the fastest kid on the field most games that he plays. He's the fastest kid on our team. I know some other guys would probably say they are, but this kid can really roll. I'm excited because he's a much better thrower of the football than he got a chance to probably show last fall. We did some things in bowl prep. We did some things in the spring, made some tweaks in what we're doing offensively, probably to emphasize his strengths a little bit more. But I'm excited because he throws the ball and doesn't really well and doesn't get the credit for it because he's so dynamic and can run the ball. And I'm looking forward to him having a really good year. He's still a young player. He's a true sophomore that hasn't had a ton of experience, but he's a very confident guy, but yet a very humble kid. I'm excited because I think he can be really special, and he's going to make some mistakes. He's still young, but I know he's going to learn from him and grow from him. And like I said, with he and Wells, I think it'll be a really good match.
Can you think of and I know that there are other programs that have dynamic running games, but with Giddens and now Edwards, and then, of course, what Avery can bring to the table, you have to fill a couple of holes from departures on the offensive line, which we'll get to, but that's pretty salty, Chris.
It's fast, and there's some guys that can really run back there and can get out and go. And then, DJ, we talked. There's really good backs in our league, really dynamic backs in our league. Sometimes I don't know if DJ gets in that upper echelon like he should be because he's a power guy. He's got great hands, protects the quarterbacks as well. I'm excited about our backfield. We've got a number of people that can do some special things with the ball in their hands.
You have Leviston, KT, who played here in Waco. We had him in the studio before the NFL draft. Obviously, BB and just a bunch of snaps. It just seemed like even with Coach Snyder to what you've done, that's just something where you guys almost like have a factory of those who come in and replace them. And it's the same type culture on the offense or defensive line. Is that true?
It has to be, in my days of being a head coach, and I've been with Coach Riley, our offensive coordinator and O-line coach, we always want to have great depth in our O-line and have the next guy up mentality ready to go. And that's harder today's day and age of football. But, I know we lose 4 real seniors in the offensive line, and then you throw Beebs in there. Gilly was a starter for us for a number of years at center. But we also have 2 kids that started a ton of football for us in Hadley Panzer and Carver Willis. But our other 3 guys are going to be in their 3rd or 4th or maybe 5th year in the program, that it's not like it's a brand new face that's a true freshman or a redshirt freshman. We have some of those guys that are going to help us and provide some depth and give us more bodies in there. But we've got some guys that have been in the program an awful long time that it's just their opportunity. And they probably would have had the opportunity last year, but all those 6-year guys came back.
All right, K-State has always had great special teams. You have the coach that came in with the Commanders, had been there for 5 years in the NFL. But Kansas State, to me, is kind of like Coach Beamer when he was at Virginia Tech. It's something that is, again, it's just something that's a part of K-State football. How much of a tweak or how much infusion of adrenaline does he bring to the table?
Oh, we were so fortunate getting Nate Katzer to come in here and be a part of our program. He's from Western Kansas. He knows about Kansas kids. He was excited to come here. Just the resume and pedigree he has. It's a lot of our older guys that have aspirations to play at the next level have gravitated to Nate and are asking him tons and tons of questions. But you're right. It's a mindset here. We have a lot of walk-ons that have earned their stripes on special teams and ultimately earned scholarships, and our guys see that. And so it's got to be good for us. It's got to be really, really good. And there's times last year that it was really good, other times that wasn't so good. But our special teams are a staple here, and Coach Katz is really going to continue to emphasize that.
How much of a challenge is it to try to make sure the mixture of high school students, athletes, high school kids you recruit, sign, and what you do in the transfer portal? Is that something you're learning almost like now every year because it's so new?
Yeah, every year is a different challenge, and that's what we kind of talk about as our staff. We didn't know how the 22 season and roster was going to go. Then we get to the 23 and it changed a little bit. Now everything we're doing is focusing on the 24 team and what that roster is, whether it's true freshmen, and we're going to play more freshmen. I think everybody's going to play more true freshmen now, to the transfers, to the returners, and getting, we're looking at 25s and 26s, but you got to play in the now.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do everything in the now. You're developing still, and we're still a developmental program, but everything needs to be in the now and how you can be successful in the current season. And for us, that's this summer and fall.
Do you have any idea how this conference shakes out with the new 4 coming in? Obviously, what Coach Whittingham's done at Utah is really, really strong. In Arizona last year, despite the coaching change, they have some dudes coming back, and then those who you already know. And there could be like an algorithm of a schedule that can help or hurt a team. Is 16 almost getting to the point where it's too much?
No. I like the number. I mean, that's what everybody's going to, is these
right.
16-team leagues, and it's competitive, and there's great parity, and I'm excited because of the new life that's come into our league with different teams. I think it's going to be fun for fan bases. We get Arizona and Arizona State coming in here, which will be fun games and really good programs, and then we go to BYU, to Colorado, to Cincy. Put a lot more work on our staff because we don't have a log of games we have on all these teams. And so, it's just strange for me. We don't get to hook up with Baylor this year, regular season. We don't hook up with TCU. We don't hook up with Texas Tech in the regular season. But that's just kind of the new wave of our league. And there's tons of parity, but it's just strange not playing some of those teams that you've played every year.
It is. 2 more questions, and I appreciate your time. Chris Kleiman, head coach at K-State. Was there a moment when you were a younger coach, or even early on as a head coach at North Dakota State, where you felt like you belonged?
Oh, boy. I never felt like that I really belonged, honestly, that I was just blessed with the opportunity and I was going to make the most of it. I never feel like, and I tell this to our players and I tell it to assistant coaches and even myself, don't ever think you've arrived because somebody's going to knock you off. Don't ever feel like I've got this thing licked and I've got it made. Whatever we're always growing and we're always trying to get better. And I still don't feel like I've arrived because I haven't. There's so much more that I want to do in my tenure here at K-State. And I say that if I feel like I've arrived, what am I going to tell a kid? That, okay, now all of a sudden Avery, all of a sudden he's arrived. No, there's so much more in front of us. And I just think we're always growing and getting better. And you never feel as soon as you become the success you are, the most likely person to beat you is yourself. And I'm never going to let that happen. I'm going to keep growing and keep pressing and keep trying to improve.
How critical is it if there are non-conference games initially between teams in the Big 12 and the other autonomy conferences, and even some tough and could be challenging non-conference games against others, to win those games, to give the Big 12 something to get like a little oomph on the national scale?
Yeah, I hope with all the realignment that's gone on that we all collectively in the Big 12, I know we want to beat each other's brains in during the season, that we're rooting for each other. I think it's really important that we stand behind each other, and these non-conference games are going to be really, really important and really big to set the stage for later on in the season, because our league is so good, but we need to root for each other and have really good success in the non-con.
Be honest with me. How many Pop-Tarts have you eaten since the bowl game?
Man, you know what? I'm looking at my desk, and I still got a box there.
I went and bought a box. I bought, I think the strawberry, the cinnamon, which I think seems to be the most popular. I like the strawberry. And we put it up on the set after your game. That was just a phenomenal post-game celebration. And I loved that. It brought back kind of some of that innocence of what bowl games used to be.
100%. And they did a phenomenal job marketing. Our kids absolutely had a blast. And I know you don't get a chance to go to a bowl game again twice, but the next people that go to that game are going to absolutely love it, because it was a lot of fun. And to go and be in Florida was pretty special, too.
Go enjoy, if you can, some decompression and take a deep breath. We always appreciate your time, Chris. Thanks for your time today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman on 365 Sports. We are now joined by former NFL and also radio talk show host in Salt Lake City, Scott Mitchell, joins us, Craig Smokey, and also Paul Catalina. So, Scott, is it based on what Utah has done, based on who they are, Cam Rising coming back, and what Whittingham's done consistently, in your opinion, is there a feeling that they come walking in the Big 12 and kind of run the place?
Well, if they walk into the Big 12, they're not going to do anything. They need to really come out the gates. Kyle's the guy who always, when he was in the Pac-12, it was an underdog mindset, right? So it's us against the world, and no one gave him any respect. No one gave him any chance, and he thrived on that and built a program on that, quite frankly. And I think won Pac-12 championships on that kind of us against the world mindset. And all of a sudden he got to where they had the bullseye and they were kind of expected to do well. And there was kind of a learning curve of how to all of a sudden, like, hey, you've now arrived mindset and learning how to win when you're on top. And I think they have. I think they, as a coaching staff, as a program, they've really kind of got past being the outsider, got past being the underdog, and I think they're thriving more, or there's certainly a higher expectation within the program of, hey, we're okay, and we like being the team that's recognized as maybe a favorite.
How close is Cam Rising to being Cam Rising again?
If you watch spring football, which I did, he looks better. Actually, there were some throws that he made that I was like, I didn't see that when he was playing before. And so he doesn't walk with a limp. He moves around, quite effectively. I remember Britton Covey had the same injury, and Britton came back a little bit too early, and he just didn't have that burst. And then the next year, Britton Covey was Britton Covey and was really explosive. And that's kind of what I've seen from Cam is having all that extra time off to really get his leg and his knee right has has really put him in a position where he just, there's no indication that he was ever even injured. And I think it's really helped him and helped his ability to throw the ball further and more accurate than he was before.
Scott, I know that this player didn't have like the craziest stats in the world, but he also missed last year in Brant Keithy. How do you feel about the addition of him in addition to Rising as far as what that gives the offense? I think there are probably, even though they've addressed some of it in the portal, some questions about just maybe the weaponry, if you will, around Rising, but it seems like Keithy will help that in some regard.
He'll help a lot. I mean, he was kind of that safety valve, that comfort food for Cam Rising, and he was a guy that made a ton of big plays. He was, when they needed a big play, they got the ball to Brant Keithy, and he's a hybrid type of player. And you see a lot of teams, even in the NFL today, where they have, because tight end is such an evolved position now. They get these hybrid guys that can block, but they can also line up outside and be, a slot-ish receiver, and they get down the field and catch the ball, and you get great mismatches with that. And so Utah has that ability. Landon King was another guy who kind of emerged last year when Keithy was out. But tight ends and having two of them are a big part of the Utah offense, and they have that this year. Cam Rising knows Brant Keithy. He's comfortable with him, and Brant Keithy will have a big year this year for Utah if he's healthy, and he'll be an impact player. But to mention all of the weapons, Dorian Singer has looked good. Micah Pittman's back from an injury. Money Parks is a guy that can really explode, and you didn't see it last year because they had terrible quarterbacks, and so it's really hard as a receiver to look good if you have a bad quarterback, and that's what Utah had last year. So Cam coming back will elevate the play of all of these guys, and they're guys that can make plays, and they can make plays down the field. I think the running back position might be the one that is always solid for Utah, but I don't know. It's probably running back by committee this year, and they got enough guys. I don't think they have one, really workhorse, but they've got a lot of parts they can put in there.
I remember talking to Coach Whittingham the week before they played Baylor, and I had somebody, I forgot who it was, describe Utah as a rolling ball of razor blades. And I don't know if we brought that up to you last year. Is that a pretty good description to you?
I don't know that there's a feistier, peskier, determined, is just going to fight you to the death person like Kyle Whittingham. I mean, that's just his style. That's his, it's that never give up. He's tough. He's tough-minded. That's the program he has. Every team you ever ask about playing Utah, they're physical, they're tough, and that's a perfect way to describe. He's just going to keep coming after you. He's just going to keep hitting you, keep getting after you, and that's totally the way that he's been. But I also think he's realized that football's evolved a little bit in college, and he's acquiesced a little bit, from that defensive mindset, and he's had a willingness to throw the ball more and open up the offense, but his culture never changes. And I think the success of Utah is that he's had this continuity of coaches and him being there as long as he can. And so that, bowling ball of razor blade kind of mindset can really sink in because they've had so much time to develop that culture and they haven't changed it. And guys go into the program and they know how it is, and the older guys show the younger guys, and there's a lot to be said about that continuity, and might win 2 or 3 games for them a year that maybe they would have no business winning if they didn't have that culture.
Scott Mitchell played at Utah, NFL quarterback. Salt Lake City Radio with us on 365 Sports, Paul.
So I hear the message of optimism not just for Utah, but for Iowa fans, that even your old coach can change the way that they think about things and maybe open it up on offense. Scott, what do Utah fans consider the first actual Big 12 game? Is it the Baylor game, even though it's not technically a Big 12 game this year?
It's so weird, having that and that's just college football now. You just get these weird moments, and I think it's weird, because it'll be a great test for Utah. I think it's really good that they play a quality opponent early on in their non-conference, but it's certainly I think it's a really good scenario for Utah in that it doesn't count, but you're gonna play a good team, because you need to play good teams in your non-conference. You need to get used to the speed, to the athleticism before you get into league play, and it can really hurt you. And I've seen Utah have cupcake schedules, and it really impacted them, and so they've really tried to get more quality opponents. And it'll be a weird thing, but I think the Oklahoma State game on the road, Oklahoma State returns a lot of guys, and I think it's two maybe of the topper end teams kind of going, okay, let's fill each other out here. This is our new conference, and how is this going to look? And so I think that's kind of, Utah I don't think has ever been to Stillwater, and I don't think they played each other ever. So I think that game is the one that's really going to be, all right, here we are. This is the Big 12. Well, let's see what we're up against. The one thing though, if you don't mind, that I love about going to the Big 12 as opposed to the Pac-12 is I think every week everyone feels like they got a shot to win the conference. Yeah, I know a lot of people are picking Utah, but I think there's a lot of people in the conference that go, we don't have that blue blood dominant team that if they woke up and, they could just beat everyone every year kind of team in the conference, the Oklahoma, the Texas kind of team. And so you got a lot of quality programs, a lot of programs that their fan bases are excited about football. And that, to go into a team and everyone has the confidence, like, hey, we got a shot here. I think the fans win on that, because you're going to see really, really good football in a lot of these conference games this year.
I looked it up because I was curious after you mentioned it. Utah and Oklahoma State have played one time, and that was back in 1945 when Oklahoma State won 46-6 in Salt Lake City.
Smoky, memories of that game?
Yeah.
It was pouring down rain.
No, you don't. No, but I do think that's going to be an early fork in the road type of a game as far as kind of separating the contenders. And you're right on, just everybody kind of looking eye to eye there. Scott, you can be honest, nobody's actually listening right now. I know you chose Utah over BYU, but what is it like to be sharing a conference, you think, not just for yourself, but for Ute fans out there?
I lived in Florida for quite a few years when I played the NFL, and then after I retired. And you had Miami, you had Florida State, you'd get Florida in there, and these teams, like the game kind of almost determined a national championship. And having so many good programs in your state just made everyone better. And here, really, this is an exciting time for people in the state of Utah for the first time being in big boy football, both teams, and in the same conference, because it's a rivalry that's hard to explain to people. It's personal, it's religious. You go to church with it, you live in your neighborhood with it, and a lot of people view it as good and evil and all these different things, which it's not, but it's a great rivalry, and it's always been a great regional rivalry. But it could really turn into something down the road. Certainly not right now, because Utah's clearly better than BYU at this point. But it could really turn into that national story. These two rivalry teams playing, for a chance. The winner of this could go to the conference championship and the loser's out. And that's what makes great rivalries, is when there's something really on the line. But it also brings to Utah, for the first time, the state of Utah, a national audience to discuss and to understand this rivalry. And that's what's exciting to me. We here in Utah feel like sports has grown up. We've got an NHL team. We've got the Utah Jazz. We've got these two teams in Power, I guess, 4.2 football now. It's not Power 5 anymore. But, this is big time sports. And people in the state of Utah are just hungry for it, no matter what it is, in football, basketball, whatever. So this rivalry, I love it. I'm so happy to have it, and it'll be better than it's ever been in its storied history as a rivalry.
So I know the Pac-12 last year had a special year. My goodness, Washington played for the national title. There were several teams that were really good, lots of great quarterback play, and Utah again was right there in the middle of the mix. Do you feel like, is there any part of you that feels like the Big 12, maybe not as many logos or brands or alphas as far as tradition, is a conference that takes football even more serious across the board from fan bases up top to the teams?
Well, one thing that happened is I think of, go back 5 years. Whenever the Big 12 and the Pac-12 were in existence, and everyone said, okay, one of these two conferences is going to go away. And I think everyone would have said, well, it'll be the Big 12. I mean, the Pac-12's been around, 108 years, and it's had this amazing tradition, and it's got the Rose Bowl, and it's got all the, it's got some really good marquee programs, and then all of a sudden Texas, Oklahoma leave, and everyone goes, oh, the Big 12's toast, right? It's over. And they found a way to stay relevant and was very smart. And the Pac-12 just was so arrogant and so closed-minded about how powerful and how important football is to your conference. And that's the biggest problem in the Pac-12 is they never really got how you've got to have great football programs, and you've got to kind of cater everything to those programs if you're going to exist. And so here you have the Big 12 did something, and that spoke volumes to me. And that's what I was kind of saying earlier is I think folks in the Big 12 are much more passionate and excited about football and there are other, the basketball conference is phenomenal and other sports, but there's a passion for football, and it just wasn't in the Pac-12. Oregon, Washington, Utah, really the only teams in the conference that really consistently had a fan base that cared about football. And I'll exclude USC because they're front-running, funny, fickle fans that just I have someone in here who's a USC fan that's kind of giving me the bird right now, but it's true. They're just so I'm excited. I'm excited about the Big 12. I'm excited about that they were proactive in being relevant, and it's going to be fun. And I don't think it's going to end up like a lot of people expect, but I think you're going to see some really, really good football across the board in the conference.
Scott, thank you. We will be back in touch with you at some point a couple of times, maybe the week of the game when Baylor and Utah play in Salt Lake City. We appreciate your time.
Yep, always a pleasure. Anytime.
Scott Mitchell with us on 365 Sports, which
make this the summer of Jeep at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a 2024 Jeep Compass under $30,000 or save $13,000 on a Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
It's Brian Estridge, the voice of TCU Athletics, has his own thing going on covering the Frogs in Fort Worth. He joins us, David Smoke with Craig Smoke, on 365 Sports. Hey, man, how you been? How's your summer? How was Father's Day? We lose him?
You know what? It was all good. Thanks for asking. You know what I did? You got me? Okay.
Yep,
It's all good. You know, I've already made our reservations in Vegas. I hope that's okay, David. I've got our reservations that we're going to go to Joe's, get some crab, hang out. You cool with that?
That's good. I can't wait. Let's do that on Monday or Tuesday because we're leaving. We're going to leave right after the show's over, I think, on Wednesday. So, hey, I got a question that has nothing to do really with TCU, but we were just bringing up Colorado and Shadeur and how many teams in the Big 12, if they didn't have to deal with perhaps some of the drama or high maintenance, would take Shadeur Sanders? How many would not take him? If they could have him right now, starting the summer, working out with them to be their starter this fall.
So he doesn't come with his dad. It's just him.
No, it's just Shadeur and straight up his talented quarterback.
Oh, I think 12 of them would, wouldn't they?
I think 12 to 14 of them, yeah.
Who wouldn't think?
Probably Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't take him. Yeah, they probably don't need him.
Cam Rising at Utah.
Would Utah?
Yeah, I was. Well, if you know he's healthy.
No, Utah doesn't need him. Arizona doesn't need him. Jaylen Daniels, if he's healthy, Kansas doesn't need him. And there's maybe one or two more, but not many. No, he's better than most of the league.
Yeah, I think you take him. I mean, but the problem is it doesn't come without strings attached. So, you know, you got a lot more there. You got a lot of drama you got to deal with. You know, if we're playing the what if.
No, it was just a random question I asked Garrett during the commercial break. So TCU, what a hell of a year 2 years ago. Last year, the step back. We've asked you about it before. We've even asked Sonny Dykes about it and former players about it. So what are the expectations in 24?
You know, I sat in his office today. It's the first time we had a chance to really kind of catch up after spring. And, you know, he is genuinely excited about it, guys. I mean, he thinks that the roster's better. He thinks it's made up with the kind of guys that he wants, that want to be here. I think the offensive line is going to be much improved. It's got to be. Probably can't be any worse. You know, he thinks the young running backs, Cam Cook especially, is going to be, you know, a real weapon for him. The wide receiving room is full. You know, and then you got to get a defense is going to be much more aggressive with Andy Avalos and defensive coordinator from Boise State. So, you know, he was genuinely excited. And the reason I popped in his office, and you guys have probably had this discussion, is I looked him in the eye and I said, Coach, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how to vote on this preseason team. I mean, I don't know how anyone around the league can put together a preseason all-conference team knowing what we know or knowing the little bit that we know. It's just impossible. And then we started talking about, you know, who should be favorites in the league, who shouldn't. You know, you got to base it on what you saw last year. You know, so obviously Utah is going to be up there. Arizona's going to be up there. Iowa State returns everybody. K-State should be pretty good. But I mean, after that, don't you just kind of throw them all in a hat and shake them up?
That's what we did.
Yeah, basically.
That's exactly. We unveiled ours last week, and we admitted that it was kind of somehow laid out in 3 different tiers. But the guys you mentioned, for the most part, were the ones that we discussed. And then after that, I don't know what, good luck.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. And we don't know what the roster makeup, we don't know what the roster makeup's gonna be. I mean, so I think all that sort of changes things. So, but he had an interesting comment though. He said we were talking about this time in college football, and I was fully expecting him to say it's really hard being a coach. It's really hard. And he said, it's kind of an exciting time. And I said, really? He said, yeah, because you think about it, the guys that you have right now on this roster really want to be here. The guys that are here know they have to work hard to stay here because, the fellas, as much as people don't talk about it, the transfer portal works both ways, And so as a coach, you never really had that at your disposal. I mean, let's face it, Billy Tubbs, when he was the basketball coach here at TCU, he would fire guys. Yeah, we know that. And they wouldn't be back next year. But, most of the coaches sort of honored the contract and honored the scholarship for 4 years. But that's not the case anymore.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, we don't have to look at it that way. But if you're a coach who has a bad team, great. You can kind of push guys out the door a little bit, go grab whoever you want to replace those guys and remodel it. If you lose I know they lost a lot of talent last year, and for different reasons it didn't work out, but that would have been a death nail in old times to lose all the guys that they lost, basically. And instead, they had an opportunity. It didn't work out, but they had an opportunity to go get guys from Alabama and so on and feel like they could not fall off too far.
And, Craig, they kind of took a different approach. You're right. They went, they signed guys from Florida State and Alabama, these bigger programs that didn't have a lot of plays. And thought, okay, well, there's a reason why they're at Alabama, at Florida State, at wherever. They must be pretty good talents. Let's sign them. And they took a totally different approach this year. And they went after guys who had plays. They wanted to see a body of work. They went back to what Sonny has been really good at, since the transfer portal came along, since he, perfected it at SMU and what he did the first year here at TCU. And he went out and he found guys that have played a lot of plays, maybe not all of them at the SEC level. Now, there's some, including a lineman, James Brockemeyer, who I think is going to be really good. But, I mean, I think you've got guys now that are a proven commodity, as instead of just kind of rolling the dice on, hey, he was a 5-star kid coming out of high school, surely he can still play. Now they got guys that are proven commodities that I think will respond much better on game day.
So one of the interesting things about TCU, Brian, there's a lot of interesting things, but Josh Hoover, obviously, quarterback's the biggest position on the field, and we're talking about Shadeur and Cam Rising and Jaylen Daniels, and there's some pretty good quarterbacks in this league. Hoover got a lot of playing time last year. He had some big performances. The Baylor game obviously was a huge day and a huge win, but put up massive numbers of yards against Oklahoma in a loss and threw for 15 touchdowns. What kind of space do you see him in? What are the thoughts around Josh Hoover and just how sturdy he is and just their feelings about how good he can be moving forward?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question because I think there are a couple of things that are working in his favor. We talked earlier about the offensive line. I mean, the offensive line has got to be better, and because they were not good last year. And he was running for his life. He was getting banged up. He played obviously hurt, and had the off season where he missed a spring to get better, to get back to 100%. So I think that from that respect, I think he's got a fighting chance because the offensive line is going to be better. Wide receiving core is going to be good, and just having that year of experience under him. This is a guy. He's tough as nails. He's a great kid. But he studies and studies and studies, and he works hard at it. And you guys hear that about other quarterbacks I know around the league. But I think because of that, he's got a chance. The other thing I love about him is his dad was a linebacker at Colorado State, and he coached him from the other side of the ball growing up. And to me, I think there's a real advantage to that. You know what? It's funny. I was looking back. This is an odd thing. It doesn't really matter now, but I was looking back to 2 years ago in high school baseball. I was looking at some high school baseball stats in the state of Texas, and I was looking for a couple of names in there, and Josh Hoover's name kept showing up, and I'd forgotten that he was a really good pitcher coming out of Rockwall Heath as well. But he was, top 10 in ERA and top 10 in strikeouts, and so this is a guy. I mean, we know he can sling it. I don't think there's any question about that, and we know he's going to work hard at it. Can they keep him healthy? Can they keep him upright? I think if that happens, then I'll look for a big year. And by the way, don't sleep on Ken Seals, the transfer from Vanderbilt, who's behind him, who had a pretty good spring, and then Hoss Haney, who's the youngster out of Alito, the true freshman, who I know they want to see in the future be the guy, and it's going to be hard to keep him off the field as time goes on. You'd love to be able to redshirt him, obviously, this year, but I think that room's going to be okay, actually.
By the way, when Craig said that he put up big numbers against Baylor, what quarterback at TCU hasn't had a day against Baylor? Is there a school that TCU plays where it's the opposite? They can't beat them?
Kansas. They don't
really?
Play great
okay.
They don't play great against Kansas. For some reason, Kansas has given, even when TCU's been good, Kansas hasn't been good. They've always, I don't know what it is, and especially up there, TCU never plays well. And it's a little different now. There is a little bit of an atmosphere, but for years you go up there and you can play, you can name any kind of things. You're playing at the Heart of Texas Speedway or whatever. But I mean, it's it wasn't it wasn't the atmosphere, I guess, maybe as much as the approach to the game. But Kansas has always been kind of a booger for them, I guess.
So where did you put TCU in your preseason rankings?
That's a good question. Because I admitted this to Sonny, and I debated, do I put him 5th or 6th? And I put him 5th.
Okay.
And I base that strictly on what I saw in the spring. That has nothing to do with the paycheck or where I sit on Saturdays. I I had to base it on what I'd seen.
Right.
I saw a much improved defense in the spring, and I saw an offensive line that I knew was going to be better. And so I thought to myself, all right, we're going to go 5 here. And because I was debating 5 or 6. But again, how do we know? How do we know between 5 and 12?
Don't.
That's going to be really. I mean, where do you put Central Florida? Central Florida is one that I'm still like, man, they could finish 2 or 3, but they could finish 10.
West Virginia coming off the year they had when they win 9 games after they were picked dead last, especially like an idiot like me.
And here's the other thing is, somebody's going to be better than we're giving them credit for. Like somebody's going to be that team that wins 7 or 8 games that you're not expecting, because that's typically how it happens too. Yeah.
Right. And Oklahoma State, what do you do with Oklahoma State?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'd never count that guy out. I mean,
no.
The guy can coach.
How many of the, let's say, 100 media who turn in their ballots, we've asked this for about a week, it's been kind of just interesting to get the responses, will not have Utah and probably Kansas State at some point 1 and 2? Does that include you?
Yes.
That's okay.
I have Utah 1 and I have Iowa State 2.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, good.
I'm with you on Iowa State. I think they're
back, correct? I mean, it literally isn't everyone back.
Yeah, pretty much every single player. Yeah, I mean, the big difference I think for them is the OC change, but yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody's back.
Yeah, and then I have Kansas State 3.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
and that makes sense.
Yeah, and teams that I have lower than other folks may for some reason, and I just can't. I've got BYU lower than probably other folks, and I got Texas Tech lower than other folks.
Okay, yeah, Texas Tech's a curious one. You can make the case for them either way. They are a curious, but they won some close games last year, lost some close ones, but yeah, I got to ask you this though, Brian, just in general with the conference, it's interesting.
Are we talking about the All-State 12?
Yes, I was going to ask you about
why isn't that banner behind you on the wall?
Yeah,
I know. I should have sold that.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you think about the All-State 12? If that in fact is what we're watching here in the near future, and I know private equity is a much more complicated conversation. It's not as black and white as we try to talk through. But what are your thoughts on Brett Yormark? And this is why you brought him in, right? Is to make moves and make money and do outside of the box things to help make up some ground. So what do you think?
And well, I think this was a trial balloon. I think they floated it to see how we reacted to it, to see what people thought, for one thing. I love the and this is not an original thought. I love the idea that someone had that I saw on some tweet that what they should do instead of selling it to Allstate is sell it to Southwest Airlines and then just refer to it as the Southwest Conference.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Let's bring the logo back and everything. Let's just call it the Southwest Conference again.
Golly.
I don't have a problem with it. That doesn't hang me up as much as PE does. When you get into private equity, and I know we're gonna have some PE guys that are listening that are gonna email me. But when I hear private equity, you know what I hear? Firings and closings and sales.
Yeah.
And so I worry that if PE comes in, they're gonna look up and they're gonna Cincinnati, West Virginia, Central Florida, Houston. Who name one? Oklahoma State. You guys aren't bringing anything to the table. You're gone. And I just don't think that that's how you operate, man. And that just scares me. And those guys want ROI, man. They want return on investment, and they don't like holding anything longer than 5 years. So you're gonna have to turn that. You're gonna have to flip that $1 billion around in 5 years. I just don't know if there's enough there.
Yeah, we don't have the details of exactly. Like if that was available, they wouldn't need a private equity. If that was truly available, they wouldn't need private equity to help raise that money.
Right. You're probably right.
Yeah. If that was the case, if there was anything close to that, they wouldn't need to go that direction.
Yeah, and it's also a case of, because you're right, we don't have the detail. Is it true private equity where you're dealing with a company that that does this, or is this just simply investors? It's a big difference, because if you've got investors and you can get emotion involved, and emotion can be a good thing when it comes to college football. PE has no emotion. They don't care about the individual. They don't care about the school. They don't care about the colors. They don't care about any of that. It is strictly a transactional relationship.
The color they care about is green.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think transactional relationships in college sports are where we get in trouble.
Yeah, and that's one of the things it seems like with all of what's happened business-wise, financially, revenue, et cetera, we've lost a little bit of that. There's still the emotion, but it's more like an angry or we're better than you or we're not good enough. That's the part about the innocence which is lost in college football, is that true passion and emotion of loving the damn game.
Yeah, and
the atmosphere.
Yeah, and there was an attitude among a collegiality among leagues and among schools that was there. You think about the Big 12 for years. The Big 12 and partnered up with the Mountain West on certain things, and or kind of brought them along. They were part of the football officials group and things like that. There's always been these relationships that have been out there. They're gone. Now it's the wild, wild west. And so, if Oklahoma can leave Oklahoma State, it doesn't matter anymore. Relationships do not matter. And I think that's bad. Yeah,
no, and we're seeing that more and more. And whatever it is down the stretch, anything else for Brian?
No,
Craig?
I think I've covered a lot.
Look forward to it. What do you have planned? I know you are buckled in all the time because of all your stuff you do for the school, but you have other things you're doing as well. What do you have? Anything in particular? Trip you're taking? Anything?
Well, I'm going to be in Vegas with you. We're going to go eat at Joe's. We'll get we'll get some crab claws. I'm going to plan on doing that. And then I got a daughter going to college in the fall, so I got to get her to Atlanta. She's going to play softball at Emory. So I got to get her down there. Yeah. So and then my son's obviously, he's at the Air Force Academy playing baseball. So he's
didn't we call you one time and you were watching him play?
I think you were. Yeah. I think I was watching him in Fresno or some glamorous place. Yeah. That's right. You know what Fresno is, by the way, don't you?
No.
It's Lubbock with palm trees. That's what Fresno is.
It's a good tagline for the tourist bureau. Lubbock with palm trees.
If Lubbock had palm trees, it'd be thought of differently. And I know we have a lot of Texas Tech fans that are great viewers, by the way, Brian. Thank you.
And I love Tech and I love Lubbock. But when I was sitting in Fresno watching baseball, I'm going, this is Lubbock with palm trees.
My God. Thank you very much. That's an ender, as Chan Gailey used to say. We have touched in today with 2 schools in the Big 12. And we're not done because Jed Drenning joined us many times, sideline analyst for West Virginia football, joined us on 365 Sports. Jed, thank you very much for your time. Last year, Neil Brown in West Virginia had a chip on their shoulder. He said it, told us at Big 12 Media Days. That can't be the case this year, but coaches find ways to kind of get an edge. What is the rallying cry for them this year?
Yeah, Smokey, you're right. It's difficult to replicate being picked 14th in a 14-team league, right? I mean, that kind of jet fuel doesn't come along often. But I have spent the off season trying to petition my fellow media members to do what they can to make sure that we get picked dead last in the league going into this year once again. But I don't think that's going to work. I don't know if many are going to pick us to win it, but I get the sense that most will pick us to be in the mix. So I think what we have to be is a group of self-motivators. I think we are. I like the leadership in this locker room despite what we lost. And I think we're going to be a team with a hard edge.
Has the offseason felt any different given the lack of, I guess, pressure that's sort of been there? Not that pressure goes away entirely, of course, but you still have to go win some more. But did it feel at all different following last season? Just maybe a sense of a lessening of some of that pressure, if you will?
Just like you said, the pressure never goes away. But to Neil Brown's credit, that's not something that he really he didn't bring that into the building. I mean, none of those types of things were part of any narrative that was going on. And you got to focus on the next game ahead of you and win it anyway. I think that we believed in what we were capable of, which is why in large measure Neil was upset to the extent that he was when that projection came out last year. We thought that we were a couple plays away and a couple games here and there from, instead of being a 5-7 team the year before, for maybe being a 7 or 8 game winning team. But it didn't work out that way. But last year, things did start to come together. I think the biggest difference coming into this year is it's the first time in a while that we feel we have a bona fide, a somewhat established playmaker behind center. And that kind of changes the ebb and the feel and the vibe of everything to begin with. So when you have a guy like Garrett Greene coming back, when you have Nico Marchiol returning to back him up, that says something about the program, and I think that gives you a little bit of swagger as well.
So, yeah, I love the way he plays the game, Garrett Greene. I love the way it's like he wears his emotions on his sleeves. He's tough. He's better than you think, and sometimes that might be, he's not that perfect-looking quarterback, but my God, he seems to be an incredible leader too. And not saying he's a leader is misjudging his talent, but he just, I want to go into a foxhole with him.
Yeah, Neil likes to call him an energy giver. Some people, we talk about energy vampires that will steal your energy from you and bring down a room. Well, there's a certain energy, a certain glow to Garrett when he comes around. He's never having a bad day. That really resonates with his teammates and really resonates with anybody who spends some time with them. So there's a lot to be said for that. So setting aside the skill set and the dynamic playmaking ability, just in terms of what he can accomplish within the confines of a locker room, I've always said that, first and foremost, the biggest job a quarterback has is to make those around him better and get the most from those around him. And Garrett Greene can certainly do that.
Jed, trying to position everybody in the Big 12 is a difficult task, as I'm sure you've found that as well. Everybody trying to do their preseason polls and everything. How did you kind of sort through the madness, if you did already, and where did West Virginia fall in your mind when trying to feel out where the conference goes through 16 teams?
Well, you want to start by being in the mix, but it's far more important, as we know, to be in the mix in November. If you're playing meaningful football in November, that's really what you aspire to. And I think we've put ourselves in position to do possibly that. I think there is so much incredible parity in this league. I think it's going to come down to a function of two things. Which team is the most consistent? Because literally there's no empty chairs. Anybody can beat anybody, and that's not lip service, on any given Saturday or Thursday or Friday night. And the other thing is going to be who stays the healthiest. So whoever is the most consistent and plays relatively good football week in, week out without laying a dud here and there, or doesn't lay many duds, and whoever stays the healthiest. And I think West Virginia is in the mix of one of those teams that can certainly do that. And if we do, there's no reason to think that we don't at least have a chance to be fighting for a spot at Jerry World come December.
So what is their issue, or what aren't so sure about as they head into the season?
Well, we have a lot of replacement pieces on the defensive side of the football. I mean, defensively, we were retooled with some portal kids last year, starting with Beanie Bishop. I mean, you talk about a sales pitch for portal kids. We're able to look at portal kids and say, this guy parachuted in, was on campus for 7 months, and became the 13th consensus All-American in the history of the program. How's that for portal? You know, so that's the sales pitch that Neil and the staff and Jordan Leslie and the defensive staff have been positioned to offer. And we jumped last year, guys, from when it comes to a passes defended standpoint. I found myself talking about PBUs and passes defended more last year than any point in my entire adult life. You didn't realize 2 years ago how often we were out of position and didn't even get a chance to make a play on the football. We went from 121st in the country 2 years ago in passes defended to 21st last year. So in large measure, that was because of Beanie Bishop and what he brought to the table. So now the question is, can one of these new portal kids, in addition to what we return, fill that void? And we like to think we're a little longer, we're a little more athletic on that defensive back end, and maybe we can do that. The other question mark would be, last year we surprised a lot of people with our robust depth on the defensive line. Now, we still feel we can be very productive with our top unit and even our top couple units. But guys, last year we sometimes went 8, 9 deep, cycling guys in and out without missing a beat. I'm not so sure the composition of this defense will be the same as that. So we're going to have to make up for it in other ways. And we feel, for instance, that maybe this linebacker room, which has a real chance to be potentially not just the strength of the defense, but maybe the strength of the team, we'll see. So those are the things that have to fall into place for us. Now, on the offensive side, you don't replace Zach Frazier. You certainly don't replace him or Doug Nestor. But we had 7 guys start games up front on the offensive line last year. We returned 5 of them. We do feel that the anchor of this unit is a potential first-round pick at left tackle in Wyatt Milam. He's the new leader of that group. So we're confident with where things are there. A lot of young receivers returning, including Cole Taylor and the production he brought at tight end. We brought some additions in the portal on the perimeter. It's just a function of how many of these things are going to fall into place. I do think we're expected to take another step offensively. I don't know if we'll be expected to do so defensively, but I think we can.
Jed, I had a question from S. Michael DeHart, huge West Virginia fan. We've got a lot of Mountaineer fans who are a part of our audience. When will they unveil the Coal Rush uniforms? Is there a specific week or a game you think they'll do that?
You know, there's not part of the Thunder. There was a great debate among Mountaineer fans. Hey, if Penn State's a night game, wouldn't you love to see that? Roll them out then. And then there's some people saying, I don't know about the Penn State game. That's a regional rivalry game. We got to go with the old gold and blue in that one, and maybe later. But now it's to the point I'm not sure, because Penn State's a noon kickoff. You're certainly not doing it then. The next week's an FCS opponent, a later kick under the light, sure, but I don't know if you'd do it then. So I think that's kind of up in the air and to be determined.
All right, speaking of Penn State, last year when the season began, because there was so much like, man, there's a dark cloud. Is Neil Brown going to survive the year, et cetera? It was 38-15, but it didn't seem that way. Penn State scored late, but it was a game that was very competitive for probably most of it until the last score. And that seemed to like give them a little bit of a boost. Does it all kind of ride on the atmosphere of this team based on Penn State, or is that putting too much into one game?
I think that could kickstart things for sure. I think one of the big differences, let's start with this. Penn State, as you guys know, is going to be a top 10 team once again. Mm-hmm. They're going to be incredibly deep and talented, most likely a playoff team in this new 12-team format. They're the real deal, absolutely. The biggest difference that I see will be, instead of playing in a sold-out Beaver Stadium in front of 110,000 people, the largest crowd to ever watch West Virginia play a football game, we're going to be playing in front of a sold-out Mountaineer field. Now, noon or no noon, don't read too much into that. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. You're going to spend all summer hearing about this as Fox promotes it. It's going to be a big deal. Mountaineer fans are certainly going to be the 12th man and have this team's back. on August 31st against a very talented Penn State team. But a couple things to look at. Last year, despite all the talent and depth on the Penn State defense, we were still able to somewhat effectively run the football. Ran for 140 yards plus. Smokey, as you talked about, it was a ball game well into the third quarter. It was 14-7. The problem that we encountered, we did what you can't do in that type of environment against that kind of team, and we blinked. We had a penalty, bring back a 20-plus yard run. That stole our mojo. The next thing you know, they drove down and scored and started to separate, and it was a different ball game. But we can't let those types of things happen. We're a double-digit underdog at Mountaineer Field, or at least at this juncture we are. The last two times we were a double-digit underdog at Mountaineer Field, we actually won the game. So interesting vibe to this football game against an incredibly talented Penn State team. I mean, this would be the signature marquee win that Neil Brown and this group would love to have, no doubt about it.
Any thoughts, and I know it's all very much unofficial stuff, and it's just maybe trial balloons being floated by the conference office, who the heck knows, but any thoughts on just some of the stories involving the Big 12 last week, the renaming and the private equity thing? It's very complicated. I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of that, but any particular thoughts on just your mark kind of going for it all, going for things to make the conference better, although there might be some pushback on that?
There's certainly going to be some pushback because not everybody's ready to embrace these changes that, for good or for bad, are necessarily taking place. But in a power structure of college football, which is where we currently reside, with in effect a power two. I mean, let's be real about this. When you look at the financials of the SEC and the Big Ten, it's a power two. So others are trying to scramble to best position themselves as that next league in. And I think really the Big 12 and your mark have done a better job than anybody else at doing that and filling that vacuum. And I think what Brett Yormark's trying to do, and he's been doing this since the day he took the job, is to create as many non-traditional revenue streams as he can come up with to try and play catch or try and pursue what the SEC and the Big Ten have done in terms of cashing those checks, because this all comes down to who's cashing the biggest checks, because whoever is will be the most competitive. So the more you can do to close that financial gap, the better off you're going to be and the greater you're going to be served. So if we can do things that maybe the ACC and the others aren't doing, I'm all for it. I'm for anything that in the grand scheme of things from a brand equity standpoint makes the Big 12 more appealing to our TV partners and, just importantly, more appealing to potential players that might want to be part of.
Jed, as you know, we get a media poll, preseason poll. Joni Lehman sends that out. We have to send it back. We all did. We opened up our polls, preseason rankings last week. Was it – I don't know why, but for whatever reason, this year it seemed to be easier, even though there looks like a traffic jam from anywhere between like 5 and 9 or 10. Was that something that kind of flew off your pen or your laptop or whatever when you put yours together?
Yeah, it's very interesting. First of all, when you look at the 4 newbies, how are we going to assess that? I think we'd all have to start with Utah and go from there, right? I mean, in terms of the success that they've had in the Pac-12 and what they've done there and what they have coming into this league. I think you'd have to start there, and that's not to discount the others, but I think people would be looking even more favorably at Arizona, if not for the coaching transition. Sometimes those transitions are seamless, sometimes they're not. So that's the only variable that we don't know about. If Jed Fish was still there and everything was still intact, because, boy, are they still returning some talent at quarterback and a receiver and at some key spots. So it's difficult to read how that might play out. When you look at some of the older return teams from the Big 12, Oklahoma State, look, they had some deficiencies on the defensive side of the football, but when you have a bell cow feature back like Ollie Gordon and you have Mike Gundy running the show, it is impossible for me to count the Cowboys out, especially with 20-plus returning starters, 8 offensive linemen who have started significant games at the college level. It's really hard for me to not say Oklahoma State's going to be sniffing right there toward the top. And I don't understand. Yes, Will Howard's a big loss, but they have talent and explosiveness, Kansas State does, behind center. I'm not so sure why they're not getting a little more love. And then things get really murky and really messy because here come the West Virginias, here comes Iowa State, here comes Kansas with what's Lance Leipold's done. It's just, once again, even 10 years ago, I've tried to tell Mountaineer fans, back in 2016, our 1-10-win season as a member of the Big 12 with Dana Holgorsen. Look, back in those days, that was still not just the Kansas team that you could show up and play poorly and win by 4 touchdowns, but even an Iowa State program at that juncture that you could count on for an easy win. So there's your 2 W's that you start with. Now, what do you do from there? No such easy W's exist in this league. Again, that's not lip service. You guys, I'm preaching to the choir. I get it. But there are no empty chairs on this schedule. I mean, you telling me I don't care how much BYU struggled against Big 12 competition. Do you want to go to Provo and see how that goes? I mean, there are no layups on this schedule, and that's what makes it so difficult to forecast.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know what's going to happen with Penn State, West Virginia, but the Big 12 needs those games. They need some wins like that early on to kind of catch some attention. I hope they get it. Obviously, love to see the Mountaineers open up with a win against a highly ranked, as you said, team out of Penn State. Ched, great stuff, man. Hope you have a chance to decompress a little bit this summer. We'll see you soon. And also, of course, have you on as many times as we can between now and the football season and ending in December or January. Thank you.
Appreciate that, guys.
Yep.
You enjoy.
Ched Drenning, sideline analyst for West Virginia Radio.
So many companies and policies out there. It gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoke. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Carry On Solutions is a full-service IT management service provider and provides professional services for businesses servicing clients in the U.S. and globally. They are authorized partners with Microsoft, Quest, Veeam, NetApp, HP Enterprise, and Cisco Duo. Whether you are outsourcing IT services, merging companies, or wanting to tackle cybersecurity challenges, contact Carry On Solutions. We are IT. Call or email Dave at 832-437-0138 or sales at Carry On Solutions. That's CARRION Solutions.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by
Waco. Robert, thanks for your time. So we all went and released our preseason Big 12, preseason rankings, and we seem to kind of have there's 3 tiers. One that might have 3 or 4 teams at the top, another one that might have 8, and then maybe 4 that all seem to be, at least we don't know enough about, or they're just not going to be very good. Oklahoma State seems to be in that top tier. It just depends on where someone wants to put them. How would you view the conference yourself and the way you look at that?
Well, I made mine public too. In fact, I'm trying to pull it up, but I think I know it by memory. Yeah, mine was very similar. In fact, what I do when I do this is I go in and I pick every game with every team. Making sure that I don't accidentally give 2 teams wins in the same game. So, I mean, I've got to balance it out because I want to see, you don't have to. This is just for the Big 12 media day. I mean, I could just scribble down 16 names, but to me, it's a lot more fun to try and be exact. And then at the end of the year, you either look at it and say, well, I don't know. I really don't know much. Or, you can kind of, like Ari Temkin on Sirius XM. He was the only one picked Oklahoma State at the top last year. They didn't finish there, but they finished in the championship game. So I gave Ari some credit. Ari knows more than maybe I think he knows. But, David, I had 4 teams tied. At the end of the exercise, I had 4 teams tied for first. I got the Big 12 tiebreakers out, which that's not fun. And I broke the ties. So Joni and her staff, the Big 12, won't have to send mine back and say, we don't take ties. I broke them. But I had 4 at the top, Utah alone in 5th, and then I had 5 more tied for 7th. So, yeah, it's an exercise of suspense because I think there's going to be a whole lot of ties when it's all said and done. I think it's going to be a jigsaw puzzle.
Robert, when it comes to Oklahoma State and trying to decide where to put them, there's the logic of they bring a lot of guys back, a lot of guys. The staff's intact, all that. So, hey, you did this last year. Why couldn't you just run it back and basically do it again? But we know it's not really that simple. There's the thought going against that of, well, if they don't have as much luck in close games, then, you're looking at losses versus wins. Defensively, I know there's question marks. And just following up on what they did last year, but in your opinion, why would Oklahoma State not be able to be as good as they were last year? What would it boil down to for you, outside of obviously wild cards like injuries?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the first thing if they don't stay healthy. The other one would be if they can't throw the ball well enough to allow defenses not to gang up on Ollie Gordon. Alan Bowman's got to be better, and he knows it. And he took steps in the offseason to make sure he would be better. And his whole goal is this year to stay ahead of the chain so that defenses can't gang up on Ollie Gordon. You mentioned the defense. They took steps over on that side of the ball, too. They've got 2 of the most dynamic defenders back this year with Nick Martin, who I think is way underrated. I mean, if you go last year and stack Nick Martin up with Danny, I'm trying to think the OU linebacker. I think he was
Stutzman.
Stutzman. I love Danny Stutzman, but I wouldn't trade Nick Martin for Danny Stutzman. And then here's the other thing: the secondary last year was confused. They allowed the Iowa State game was a debacle. There were 3 touchdown passes where there were busted coverages. It happened in some of the other games. This year they've simplified things. They're trying to so the secondary doesn't have to think as much. They can just play freely. The other thing is Mike Gundy brought in Paul Randolph, and I can see, in spring practice, Randolph makes a difference. He's made a huge difference in recruiting, but he makes a difference coaching on the field. This guy's a veteran coach. and you let one of your own go. Greg Richmond was a former player at Oklahoma State. That had to be very painful. But Paul Randolph makes that defensive line better, and that defensive line will be more multiple. Toward the end of the year, they started playing more four-man. After going wholesale with the Iowa State, John Haycock, three-man front, now they're going to mix it up. And so you hope any combination or all of those things will allow the defense to play better because, their numbers weren't great. And then on the offensive side, where I mentioned Alan Bowman, I'll tell you what he did. He went to Rob Glass, the strength coach, and said, "I don't want to do quarterback workouts anymore. I want to do what the rest of the team does." So he and the other quarterbacks, one of them, Zane Flores, was already doing those workouts, but they all got into it. Bowman lost about somewhere between 5 and 10 pounds. Got a little more muscle on his frame. Mike Gundy kidded around in spring, said, he was a little soft when he got here, but he looks better now. And his goal is to scramble and slide instead of throwing balls 20 rows up in the seats. He wants to try and get a few yards. And like he said, his words, keep the team offensively ahead of the chain. The other thing is he did a deep dive last year into the tape. Every mistake he made, every interception, every bad read, and really tried to major on getting better. So I thought he was better in the spring, and we'll see what he looks like in the fall.
When you mentioned Bowman lost a little weight, is it me or does he have a flat jacket on that makes him sometimes look a little bit more puffy than he is?
Well, he has a flak jacket. They all wear the flak jacket, but no, he was a little heavy last year, heavier than what he played at Texas Tech. I think when you go up north and you're at Michigan and the quarterback doesn't run that much at Michigan, that you probably – and, again, I don't think Michigan's off-season workouts – in fact, Bowman would agree with me, their off-season workouts aren't quite what they do at Oklahoma State. So he bought in totally to the Body by Glass system. And you can see it. I mean, I saw him during spring, but I tell you where it really showed up. He played in the charity golf tournament that I was involved in, 3-4 weeks ago. And out there in golf shorts and a golf shirt, I'm like, whoa, yeah, he looks like he could go with those flat tummies on the PGA Tour. So, yeah, and like Mike Gundy kidded about, Bowman was a little, I don't want to say flabby or anything like that, but he didn't look like he did in Lubbock when he played at Tech. He's now back to looking more like what he looked like when he came out of Grapevine High School.
Robert, where could Ollie Gordon improve, and how much of a battle? I think we talked to you about this months ago when he decided that he was going to stay. Yeah, mental. I think that was probably where my head was as well with him, just kind of the, barking on the sidelines, things like that. But that, I guess, answers part of the question. But how much of a battle did they have to put up to keep him around? Not that Ollie didn't want to be there, but just what were they having to fend off, I guess, this offseason when it came to making sure he was still in black and orange?
Yeah, not as many as you might think. I can tell you one school. I'm just gonna be honest. Just don't send this show down to Florida. Miami. I wouldn't root for Miami if they were playing the Kremlin. That's the most tampering, cheating institution out there in the NIL era. I mean, Nick Martin, they hammered Nick Martin more than they hammered Ollie Gordon. Nick Martin finally said, y'all quit calling me. And so that's where some of it came from. I don't know if there were, I don't know any other I can name by school, but no, Ollie Gordon got hit on. Nick Martin got hit on a lot more. And they just, they did a good job. Their NIL is not flush with cash. I'm pretty sure they're not the biggest NIL in the Big 12. They certainly don't have the kind of money, the war chest I'm hearing about in the SEC. But with the culture here, the fact that they make the payments on time, that always helps when you get your check on time. The players are very happy, and this was a great spring. I think we talked about it, last time I was on with you guys. I can't remember a spring practice that I thought was better in performance and better in attitude than what they were this spring. So, they get hit on, and there's people trying to get some of these guys, but for some reason, they're hanging in Stillwater.
Robert, you do know that we just happen to be live, and anywhere in the world they can watch this show, even Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
But you know what? If somebody wants to contest me, what's the truth in a libel, or what's the proof in a libel case, David? Isn't it truth?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a few witnesses I can put on a stand if somebody in Miami wants to sue me for saying they're a bunch of tampering crazies. Then go ahead. We're going to have to pay some airline tickets for some kids to take the stand, but they'll take the oath and they'll tell the truth.
So Ollie Gordon is the star. Who is his backup? I thought I saw something come down about the backup may be hurt. That was going to be their backup.
Yeah. AJ Greene, who transferred from Arkansas and is a Tulsa Union guy originally, he got hurt in the spring. It's an injury that's probably going to keep him out for the season. And Ceci Valier, who was the true freshman running back last year, and he's very close to being a Jaylen Warren type clone. In fact, coached by the same coach in high school as Jaylen Warren, and Jaylen's kind of his role model or mentor. Ceci had a very good spring, but I like what Mike Gundy and Todd Bradford and the staff did in the portal. They got Trent Howland from Indiana, and he rushed for 400 and change, but he was the leading rusher for Indiana. They just didn't have a very good running attack last year. But he's 6'4", or not 6'4", he's 6'2", 240. So he's a different kind of back. He gives you, in Oklahoma State historically, and I can't believe I'm saying this to this crew, Oklahoma State historically has had a problem with short yardage and score zone situations. Man,
I got you.
Of all the interviews to bring this up, yeah. I nailed that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of preaching to the crowd. But they brought in a guy in Howland that's 6'2", 240 that'll help in the short yardage and the goal line stuff. He didn't get here until the summer. I saw him the other day working out, and he's 6'2", every bit of 240. Originally out of Joliet West High School in Illinois, and they feel pretty good about him. So what they ended up getting was maybe not a pure backup, but a guy that can take the heat off Ollie. And, last year Ollie had to be the guy in all those situations. And he probably took more hits and had more energy and wear and tear on his legs in those situations. So now you've got a guy, and I talked to Howland and asked him, I said, is that what you understand? He goes, oh, yeah, that's where I can really help this team out is in short yardage and goal line, and I'm looking forward to it. So I think they got a good fit there, and then I think Ceci will help out a lot in other situations. And then they've got some young backs. Rodney Fields is a true freshman from Del City that is, he's pretty mature physically, and he's very fast. And then they brought in a kid that I don't know much about from South Carolina, late pickup in the recruiting class, and he's a 6'2", 225 guy. So another big back that might be able to learn and use Trent Howland as an example to get his college career going.
Robert, before we let you go, the last day or two we've been asking Big 12-related folks about the stuff that was floating out there last week in regards to the conference, which maybe it was just being floated for reaction. I don't think that was necessarily the full deal. I think there's some actual weight behind the name change of the conference, the private equity. And I will fully admit I don't know jack basically about private equity. I just know kind of what I hear. It does make me feel good about that. The name change of the conference, the All-State Conference, the All-State 12, whatever, I can understand where they're coming from there. But do you have any particular opinions on one or both of those topics and just kind of what Brett Yormark's trying to finagle right now for the Big 12?
Yeah, guys, I'm a purist, but I've come around. You know, the NBA basketball team here in Oklahoma City, the Thunder, loves convenience store patches on their jerseys. I got no problems with patches. I got no problems with logos on the turf at Boone Pickens Stadium or any other Big 12 stadium. The name of the conference, it's been wrong for years. So, you know, what the heck? I mean, it doesn't bother me. The only one I'm endeared to, actually two, because I grew up in Texas. I'm endeared to the Southwest Conference, and I'm endeared to the Big Eight. Anything after that, you know, it doesn't matter to me. So, shoot, yeah. If you want to call it, you know, the All-State, the State Farm, you know, I don't care. If it puts money, and see, that's the other thing. I'm looking at this financially. You guys have seen it, the difference in the TV contract.
Yeah.
The difference in the CFP payments. That really, and I understand the SEC has had more teams win the CFP, and Greg Sankey feels his teams, his conference should get more money from the CFP. But boy, when I saw the disparity there, that's the first time I think I really got kind of, you know, PO'd. So Brett Yormark, that's what you brought him in for. I mean, when he got hired, I know that Dr. Strom, the president of Oklahoma State, and you know, Mike Gundy and you know, Chad Weiberg, they all had the comment, this guy will do the unconventional. He gets it. He understands how to monetize the Big 12 more, and we're going to need to do that. This is what he's doing. He's trying to monetize the Big 12, and I'm all for it.
Garrett, do we have a picture when he was talking about short yardage situations? We have. You
got one of those.
Yeah, we have one that's over Craig's right shoulder on a shelf that happens to be the pylon, the ball, and two bodies in the air. So when you brought that up and you chuckled, I think we all went, "Oh my God, I can't believe you went there." But I get it. It's a short yardage situation. Man, we appreciate it. Do you want to give us at least the 4 schools that you had tied for first based on that?
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll run down as much as I can remember it. I told you Utah was 5th. And how about this? The tie was determined by the last game of the season. Utah plays at UCF. I think it's the Black Friday game that goes along with Oklahoma State at Colorado. I've got UCF winning that game over Utah. It's in Orlando, and as you guys might imagine from Oklahoma State's trip down there last year, to me that place is that's a haunting type stadium to go play in. But it's Oklahoma State, Kansas State, UCF, and West Virginia.
Okay. You know, here's the thing: people can sit there and like, oh my, but really, we don't know. Utah at 5 is about as low as I would go, but is Cam Rising going to be healthy? And there's some games that they have to play that are on the road. I like it. And immediately people are going, oh, my God. The fact that you were honest, you did one thing I didn't do. You picked every single game. So that way you can't say, well, 13 teams are going to be bowl eligible. Well, you can't. If you play everybody, I mean, people are going to lose. So good for you on that.
And Smokey, here's the other thing on that. This is one of those weird seasons where you get 2 byes. Well, the byes are going to help determine some of those games. For instance, a game that becomes very scary for Oklahoma State, they open with Utah at home, this is Big 12, Utah at home, then they go to Manhattan, and then the next week they get West Virginia at Boone Pickens, but West Virginia has their first bye prior to that game. So Neil Brown's going to have 2 weeks to get ready for Oklahoma State while the Cowboys are having the fun of going to Manhattan and playing Chris Kleiman's team.
Oh, yeah.
Those byes make a difference. If you get guys healthy and extra time to work on somebody that maybe they're better than you, but if you get an extra week to work on them, that can kind of even the odds a little bit. So that's why I look at it. Where's the game played? When's your bye? Who did each of the teams play the week before? Because some games take more out of you than others. So,
yeah, Robert, thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Now joined by Sean Keeler, the Denver Post. Sean, it's funny, I promoted our schedule on the website that's the umbrella of what we do and like own the company, and then we have our podcast. And one of the responses to my guest lineup was, "Oh, Sean Keeler, he's a Dion hater. I know where this interview is going to go."
I was throwing a curveball. I was going to ask if you guys are getting a piece of that Big 12 equity money.
Oh, no.
Are you going to get a piece of the league?
Hey, in fact, I may undermine the Big 12, contact them, and be a part of this show. The heck with the Big 12 surviving or not. What were your thoughts when you saw that? What were your thoughts?
No. The All-State 12. Yeah, we're going to get emails telling us.
That's right.
And phone calls telling us, strongly worded, this is no longer the Big 12 Conference. For all your references, refer to this as the Papa John's 12.
There you go.
Or the Domino's Pizza 12.
That has kind of a ring to it, that Papa John's 12.
It does. I talked about this with somebody. I'm a child of the Big 8. You guys are coming at this from Texas. I'm coming at this from Iowa by way of Colorado. I was born in Ames. I'm a Big 8 baby. So, and I got to tell you, it's just a number, and it's not even the right number. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think we're just kind of clean. I think that that ship has sailed 30 years ago. I think when those the Big Ten, for one perfectly great example of a league that will, never say never, that unless you hand them the keys to Fort Knox, they're not changing their brand name. They haven't had 10 since 1990. Does that sound right? That's Penn State.
Yep.
So if the leagues haven't been able to count for a generation and a half, we're talking 35 years, whatever it is. So sell it all. I mean, it's common. It's a matter of, it's not an if, it's a when. I actually have to I don't give Yormark credit for everything. I think he's built a better basketball league than a football league, frankly, from a relevant standpoint. He's built a hell of a basketball league. Chad Boyle's job, not get any easier. So he just looked at that and went, really? Really? You're going to do this to me now? I've put how many guys in the NBA? I've won how many, top 4 finishes in this league? Thank you. I know he's a Big 8 guy. He's a KU grad. So he kind of knew what he was getting into. But no, I think Yormark is fully where this thing is going. Maybe not in the brands he's picked up to add to this thing, but in terms of getting volume, in terms of football brands, if not quantity over quality, relative to what's out there, A, and B, selling anything that's not nailed down. I can't think that the ACC and then every other Group of 5 league isn't going to go down the road that the Big 12 is probably going to furrow first.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. If it works, then many more will follow very quickly, and we're already starting to see other leagues talk about doing similar as well. Sean, just in terms of Colorado, I know we're still a couple of months away, so we're not like in the heat of like the season's upon us just yet. But there's been this countdown now since last summer when it was announced that they were going to rejoin the Big 12. It's a unique league. It's a league that I think everybody's still kind of trying to wrap their head around because it's a bit of a mutant. There's more new teams than old teams, So
Frankenstein. It's sewn together from a lot of different pieces.
It is.
And now it's growling, and can we control them up?
Right, exactly. But what's kind of the anticipation level? What's the excitement level, or lack thereof, maybe for some people when it comes to Colorado being back in the Big 12 at this point?
I think you can trace it locally by the generation. Again, I've shown my age. I'm a child of the Big 8. I'm not going to say that I'm past 4 decades on God's green earth, but yeah. So, yeah, it depends on what look, isn't sports in general all about your nostalgia for when you were 12 or 13 deep down? Like, that's what you remember and treasure the most that way. So I think if for folks who remember the last time CU was really relevant in college football, it was the Big 8, but it was kind of the Big 12. It was never this Pac-12 era for them was, we've talked about it on this show. It was about the faculty getting a hold of things again, and you don't want to make a Revenge of the Nerds parallel to, but there was a little bit of that of, frankly, like, we're an elite academic school. Let's get with elite academic schools and make this work. And our alumni are all out west. And to be fair, they are. And let's get where the brains are, where the money is. And now they're like, let's get with the league that's going to make it. And here we are. As we've also talked about that and the evolution to get here. So people under 30 are like, yeah, we'll see. They go they go to the newbies. They go, Cincinnati, UCF, what? Like, you put it up on a map, and it's kind of CUSA on steroids a little bit than it is the Big 12 as we know it or started to know it. And if you're over 40, you're like, hey, K-State, I remember those games. Baylor, that sounds interesting. And, well, TCU, we've done that at least once. That's a nice campus. And it kind of depends on how old you are, is how you react. But everything, let's be blunt. Here's Mr. Dion Hater talking again. It's all about prime. Everything here is about, everything here is secondary to his show and whatever he brings. So it's like, bring him on. You're all just cannon fodder for the prime reality show.
By the way, I'm a Big 8 guy too, as a lifelong Nebraska fan, born in Omaha. But I sometimes yearn for those days, but that's been long gone. Sean,
we're dinosaurs, my friend.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am. I'm 65. I'm on Medicare, for God's sake. So I'm in the middle of all that.
Look at that. No, I'm crawling to get there, brother. Hey, I'm coming on a 50-something from Sioux City, Iowa, brother.
There you go.
Getting there.
Well, so it seems to be quiet when it comes to Camp Dion in Colorado. I've seen a couple of things.
There's been some things here and there, yeah.
I've seen about Shadeur and a concert and whatever was the truth there.
I know.
But
Shiloh and the lawsuit.
Yeah, no, I hate that. But you're right, Craig. There's been enough. Has it been a quiet summer, or has it? No, it will never be quiet in Boulder, Colorado.
It's never quiet with Dion. Like, when you're kind of a walk-in entourage, or, let's be frank, it's a circus. The circus never closes. And there's your headline. There'll be the better headline. Deborah Potter called it, the circus never closes. But it doesn't. Now, is it a little quieter, and is the silly a little sillier? Yeah. I've got a column up today at denverpost.com kind of about, can we bring this back a little bit from the whole Shadeur concert thing that really, frankly, care, and you should, if you're a CU fan, you care about the future of this program, whether or not there was a daddy ball requirement to go to the concert. By the way, no one has confirmed that. They've kind of hinted. I've had sources tell me, yeah, because basically Lil Wayne played after the spring game. Shadeur did his single Perfect Timing as an opening act. That was not a coincidence, but they claim it was improvised. But someone who strings for Athlon Sports put up a story saying, sources told us, by the way, Athlon doesn't do reporting, so I don't know who this brand is or where they were getting it from. And unfortunately, we live in a world of both AI and disingenuous report. I get accused of posting for clicks. No, that's not in my job remit. Yeah. But there are computers and bots where it is. Let's just be real about this. And aggregators where it is. And unfortunately, I think this has been a case of that. But really, the news is more interesting from a football perspective. And what people are kind of stoked about is this being the last full recruiting weekend before the dead period. They've got Julian Lewis, the USC commit here. They're going to make one. It's his last visit before the dead period. And they're going to make a pitch to try to get him to flip. And if they do, as I noted in the column, now you've got the one thing that would make me sit there and go, yeah, he might stick around in the post-Shiloh, post-Shadeur, post-Travis Hunter era, because they're all gone. Like, it's all about the build-up to this fall. But would he stick around? If you've got Julian Lewis and you've got Jordan Seaton, I think you've got two pieces that would make you stick around. So if they can get that flip here in the next 5 days, I think that would be bigger than anything that's come across CU's offseason in the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, that'd be massive. I'd imagine that's kind of hard for the fan base. I guess any fan base that's not Ohio State, Michigan, the usual suspects. If you have a successful coach, you're always worried about poaching. In Dion's case, he hasn't been that successful, but he's Dion. He's different in that way. So Is it kind of hard for fans to Are they just living in the moment basically at this point and hoping that the party continues rather than, falls off a cliff once the kids, move on?
Yeah. I think that's well put. I think it's with Dion, you've got to kind of literally live in the moment, because you've got a guy who could do anything. And as we've learned in whatever 20 months into this now, I'm losing count from December of 2022. They all start to blur together once the train starts rolling. I mean, anything poaching is possible. Him running for governor is possible. Him putting out an album and suddenly Snoop Dogg is running out on top of Ralphie is possible. Everything is possible when Dion Sanders is your coach. So as opposed to, Iowa State, let's pick a good kind of middle Power 5 to good program. And, where's Matt Campbell going? Boy, look at, that they're not, that's a CU peer. That's fair, even though Iowa State's kind of number 2 there in that state. No, they're not. They're worried about Dion not being here, but not because he's necessarily going to be poached, just because Smack and his business folks tell him we're going to try something else. Or wouldn't it be great if let's be frank, where should we do the TV show next?
Yeah.
Really, unfortunately, I think that's how these decisions get made to some degree. And especially with the kids gone, he's going to really more or less be a football empty nester. His daughter is transferred out. As you guys know, we were told very vehemently not to read into that. You can, but I don't see how you can't on the other level, because it was all, hey, let's bring everybody up here to the mountains and let's have a good time, which is a heck of a reality show, and they're living it and they're showing it, and we'll see. But are they going to want to do I guess it would be a season 4 after 2025 without those guys here? I don't know. I think on paper you would say no, but again, that's also what makes this weekend and some of those recruits, the prep recruits, mind you, not transfers, actual honest to goodness, old school, do it like you used to do it. Prep recruits are going to be here. When those guys start committing, then maybe, even in a poorer world, you hope you've got something that maybe has a little more staying power than 2 years. But right now, their class is 3 kids. That's it. And that is the smallest in Power 5. It's the smallest in the Big 12. And that's not a coincidence. And until they change that number, I think everybody's kind of like, let's party like it's 1999. There's a dated reference for us, folks.
There you go.
Well, Revenge of the Nerds as well. That was another one, but I got it totally. I totally got it. Okay, so if this is whatever this turns out to be, this year we know Dion's there, Shadeur's there, Shiloh, the whole crew, Travis Hunter. They have had so much turnover, just like last year. As I'm sure you know, trying to put a preseason poll together with 16 teams is just a process. And
I did the ballot cut last week. I turned it in. I just literally went, this is too many teams.
Yeah,
that was the first time it really sunk in and went, no, this is stupid. Like, if we're going to go the super conference route, division, let's just go back to that, please. Am I wrong?
No, I absolutely agree.
No, you're right. I agree. Yeah, I agree. When we all unveiled ours last week, so that's why we're getting to this question with you too, and I'm glad you answered it. At least still another question of it.
Yeah, it's an inexact science, first of all, but then you add in, more teams and you're at 16. I mean, we know Kansas State and Utah should be pretty good, and beyond that, it's anybody's guess. But with Colorado, a lot of fans feel like, hey, if they're in the bottom 5, 6, 7, that's too low. They should be higher. A lot of fans who think that having them in the top half, they're too high. You know how that goes. Yeah. But I don't know what the heck to expect with them, other than there's some cachet in having the quarterback wide receiver combination they have. There's no doubt about that. It's one of the better ones, not just in the Big 12, but in the entire country.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's a complete crapshoot, right? So what are the expectations sort of being talked about? What are you thinking about this team, and just kind of where is everybody's head at, and what they think Colorado actually will be coming up this season?
I think the fan expectation, the reasonable, rational, and there are fewer of those because the cult has kind of swept that away, where it's just like whatever Dion says, it's kind of scary. It's like, again, it's just scary. As you can imagine, I've heard from a few. I've looked up what a cult is, and they pretty much applies to 80% of CU fans right now, and 100% of the Dion fans online, especially on X, where it's a bit of a boy, you need to kind of take a step back there and really think about what you do before you tweet, brother. But anyway, and they'd say the same thing about me, and they're the Twins. So fine. But I think the rational expectations, and I think they're fair, they would be mine too, is a bowl team. I think if you play what we call the WL game, I'm sure you guys have, there's 6 to 8 there. There could be more if things are right. If somebody steps on Shadeur's wrist, it could be 5 or less. I think anything that's not a bowl game would be viewed by us in the mainstream media who don't have paid access to Dion and his kids on a regular basis. I think that would be considered a disappointment both by us who are objective and by the cult who are not. Although they're not disappointed by anything. It's like, well, we went 5 and 7. Well, that was just the Lord's will. No, it wasn't. That was you. And please stop saying that, Dion, please. It's not about that. So I think that's a fair bar. I think you've got literally 8, and here's your headline. Dion Hader says they have 8-9 win talent. Yes, they do. They do on paper. I think they have a 4 and 5 win coaching staff, and I hope they prove me wrong. So let's do the math on that one. That comes out to about 7 and 5, doesn't it? I think if you split the difference there's a way to get there. And I liked that Dion has gone from saying on, or maybe it depends on who he talks to, and he goes on Fox Sports 1 and says, we'll be in the playoff. We're a playoff team. In a spring game, he looked at what he had there and said, I'm going to tell our super fan, Miss Peggy, we're going to get you to a bowl. We're going to get there. We're going to make that work. So we're moving the goalpost just a little, but I do think the bowl goalpost is more than fair for what they've got, but they've got to navigate a really, I guess, a tricky but an interesting September if you pull that up, because I think it's home to North Dakota State. You can out-talent them. I mean, that's Dion's plan, is they're going to out-talent people. If I can outrun you, if you can't catch me, you're not going to stop me. Pretty simple. I mean, it's not simple stopping them because Travis Hunter's a top 10 pick. Shadeur's a top 10 pick. So that's a challenge if you're North Dakota State. The problem is then week 2, they got to go to Nebraska, where now you have a little closer bar in speed and power in terms of the gap between the two. And then you've got to go to Colorado State, who you should be able to out-talent, but is going to be out for blood, and you're in their backyard where you've never played.
Right.
They're building open, I want to say, 2014? That sounds right. Yeah, their stadium at CSU is hosting the showdown for the first time. And then the Bears come in for the homecoming. So, if anything else, by the time Baylor comes in, we're going to have a pretty good idea if CU is either really, really good or really beat up.
Yeah.
Based on those 2 rivalry games right before that leading up to it. So I think it's a pretty, if you play the over-under game, where most people have a 5.5, I lean the over there if you're allowed to. Maybe not on, depending on where that's legal in your part of the world. But a lot more things would have to go wrong for them not to win 5. I'd be more confident of them winning 7 or 8 than I would feel that they would win 4 or 5 again. I don't see 4 and 8 again unless you're 0 and 3.
Well,
if you're 0 and 3, then Lord, yeah. I mean, you're talking Armageddon. I mean, he could quit. I mean, he could just walk out and go, yeah, I'm done. The health, everything, this is not worth it. And then it's like, oh boy.
Yeah, and then last year the schedule just fell on their head because you had Oregon and Washington and USC and all those others. Yeah,
really good league.
Yeah. So my question then is this: if in fact I can't imagine a September like last year though, right? Because of how it started with TCU, Nebraska, and it just got like a train with no brakes, and it was amazing. And I watched them. I watched that game that was like into midnight against Colorado State, who had them dead to rights, and they just couldn't close it. Can we see that? We're not going to see that again, are we?
If they win in Lincoln, they could be 4-0. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm not putting your money. I might put yours. I'm not putting my money on that. But it goes back to what we said a couple questions ago. We didn't know what we were going to get in that opener at TCU. I remember being in Fort Worth, and Stuart Mandel is an old friend of mine, and he and I are going up in the elevator, and he's like, so what's going to happen? I'm like, they could win by 3, they could lose by 15. I don't know. That's the joy of this. I think we have a better idea what it's supposed to look like. not being a huge fan of Pat Shurmur, or Pencil Pat, as I call him, their OC. I have my doubts as to whether that will be as explosive as what Sean Lewis's offense was, but it wasn't about Sean. It was about Shadeur's comfort level, and they'll go as he goes, and we'll see how well that works from there. But I think, there are a couple. I mean, I don't think 0-4 is there. I just don't see that. I mean, North Dakota State, I've talked to people up there. They're excited. They're not quite the giant killers they were. That's still a crazy game to schedule when you're kind of rebuilding, but that's CU. They like to be on TV, whether they show anything or not. And so I think there's enough there that doesn't worry me. And talking to North Dakota media, where they're like, yeah, they'll bring it and they'll give them a fight, but I don't think you're talking about a FCS national champion level where it would be more dangerous for say a Colorado State, who the talent level, again, the gap would be a lot shorter to get there. I just think there's too many NFL guys, literally not coaching. No, Dion loves he has an NFL staff, Warren staff. No, they have NFL guys on the field, and therefore that's going to be harder. But that's going to change when they get into league play and get Nebraska and see that side of it. So 4-0 could be crazy. I think we thought last year was crazy. And the difference between last year and this year is you have more home games, one. You have a league that probably on paper, as we've talked about, as we try to do these polls, isn't quite as deep, certainly not in the quarterback department, as good as it is. It's not as good as where the Pac-12 ironically went out on, which is, again,
I agree,
kind of crazy because it wasn't a good league for it. The reason they broke up is it wasn't a good league forever, and then they ended up with three draftees, 4 NFL quarterbacks in one season, or guys that would be drafted as upperclassmen or soon are to be, and probably more when we consider the guys who will be there in 25 and 26. Anyway, it was a really good conference, ironically, at the end as it died. It died on its feet after laying around for too long. Thank you, Larry Scott. So CU ran into a gauntlet where injuries, Travis Hunter, among others, and their depth, and the experiment, because this is still an experiment. Can we change 60 guys on a roster every year and turn it over like this and still be cohesive? I think their lesson learned was let's just turn over better guys, or maybe from better programs, and also look for better fits. That guys say that we just went for 4 stars and Florida State guys when we should have looked for 3 stars who we can't measure heart kind of thing. And that was good. I thought that was, having covered a lot of Kansas State and Wisconsin and Iowa, as you can imagine, I was kind of raised on a lot of those kind of try-hard guys that are developed can be better as a unit, certainly offensively on the line and defensively up front, than star rankings would matter. So I think there's some progress, at least philosophically, but it's still an experiment. You still don't know how that's going to work, how that's going to gel. I've had people tell me from the spring game that they thought the 5-star tackle Jordan Seaton looked terrible. I've had other coaches tell me they thought he looked great and he's going to be a star right from the get-go. I mean, the thing about Dion still, and I apologize for rambling, is it's still all over the map because they changed, to your point, so much that it's hard to get a peg until you've got a body of evidence there. And then by the time you do, you might lose 5 guys to injury. So I try to find the truth in the middle there again, and that's why I see 7-8 wins there probably. But, I mean, anything 4-10 is on the table. I mean, you can't not put it there because so much could go right. And as we learned last year, if you hit a rut, so much could go wrong.
Yeah, and I think there's like 5 to 7 teams in the Big 12 that are in that same conversation. Shad, I know we got to go. Are you going to be in Vegas for the Big 12 Media Days?
I'm actually not.
Oh, okay.
Because and there's a reason. I'll put this on record for the Dion lovers. I was assigned to it, but I had already scheduled something for my wife's birthday, which is July 8th, so I cannot be there.
Yeah, you better not change your mind.
Isn't a choice between Dion. Hey, let's put this on the record for you, Sanders, you Coach Prime head. If it's a choice between Dion and my wife, I know who I'm picking. I know who my boss is, and it ain't the guy with the gold jacket. It's the lady who's
God,
she's the boss.
Yeah.
So we will be at Disneyland the 8th and 9th, celebrating my wife's birthday, but then I will be back on the clock. So trust me, we'll see everybody soon.
I hope to see you, man. It's great. Thank you for your time. Sean Keeler, go.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Mark Daniels, voice of UCF Athletics, joins us on 365 Sports. Mark, thank you very much. The first year of UCF in the Big 12 has come and gone. The great lead-up, and then, of course, now 4 new teams coming in July. Was there a specific call you had in the last year among all the things you had that was the one that stood out the most?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know about a specific call. I think the game that UCF fans in football will certainly remember the most of their first year was the game against Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cowboys came in off of that great win against Oklahoma, and UCF is kind of searching for that big win in their Big 12 rookie year, and then to have the game go the way that it did. They shut down Ollie Gordon early, and UCF offensively begin to make plays. R.J. Harvey was the best running back that day in the field, and it was a big win for UCF on a space game, which I've never lost with their uniforms and everything. So I think that was a signature win in football this past year for UCF, and learned a lot, excited, and as you said, Smokey, now we're veterans in this league. I mean, year 2, I mean, good grief. We're like one of the old guards in the Big 12 now, right?
Yeah, you are, with the 4 that now start their second year, 4 that are about to start their first year. And then if you really think about it, with TCU and West Virginia, they didn't come in until a little bit after, 2011 or 12?
It was like 11 or 12, yeah.
And really, there's just 6 teams from the original Big 12 that are a part of what is 16 teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's crazy. But look, one thing that I also learned last year, and people can view it however they want, I do think this league is in pretty good shape. I mean, you can say, well, nobody wants anybody in that league, maybe, but I do know that this group now realizes this is the best place for them right now. There's a lot of other change going on in other leagues out there. I think it helps this league that you don't have a third or half your league looking elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that changes down the road, but I think it helps solidify the Big 12. And I think from a football standpoint, guys, there doesn't appear to be any overwhelming favorite. I think a number of teams can make an argument why they can be in the hunt to get to a Big 12 championship game, and I think that makes for a great conference in football.
And that leads me to the question. We, all three of us, Craig, Paul, and I released our Big 12 preseason rankings. And for some reason this year, to me, it kind of fell into three different groups, with the midsection as a larger group. But last year, I mean, I struggled. I didn't know. And now we have 4 new teams. There's still a lot of the unknown. When you filled yours out, was that something that took a lot of time? Did you have to stare at it a few times, or did you kind of let it all fall together for you?
No, I think that's pretty consistent. Last year, you kind of looked at it, and were we ready to think that Texas was going to make a jump like they did? I thought Kansas State was going to be a really solid football team. I thought Kansas was going to be good, and you had to have the year kind of develop. And then I look at this season, and certainly Utah comes in with experience. Arizona brings back some people from a really good team. Last year, Colorado, I still think they're trying to figure out. But I also think there are a number of programs that maybe didn't have the season expected last year. I think TCU is going to be significantly better. I think Iowa State is going to be better. So, I saw some of the stuff you guys were posting, and I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. That team you have 10 should be third. It's like, But guys, is the gap from 4 to 10? It's not like it's a 3-win gap. It might be, a 1-2 win gap. And as we all know, so many of these games come down to a possession or two, and that's the difference sometimes of going 6-3 or 3-6 or being 7-2 and still have a chance for the conference championship game.
Somebody just mentioned there are 7 from the original because Colorado was a part of the original,
right?
And they're back, so that does count. Thank you, Bracket Cat, for letting me know that. All right, so KJ Jefferson, Penny Boone, a tremendous amount. You have Harvey back as well. That's one hellacious backfield, it appears, Mark, that Gus Malzahn has time to play with.
Guys, I think last year I said this, forget what announcers and the media thought. I think for UCF's coaching staff and players, they had to go through a season to really understand the Big 12 and learn about the quality and depth of lines offensively, defensively, how physical the league was. We've talked about a number of times about quality linebackers and safeties that are 6'2" and 210, 220. And I think UCF saw that firsthand. And I think Gus and his staff really said, okay, how do we get better? How do we hit the portal to areas that we've got to be better at? And then what about things that we can add to that we're good at to make us even stronger? And it's really interesting as UCF did this. KJ Jefferson is a really big get. The quarterback of Arkansas kind of fits in with what Gus wants to do. I'm not saying is as good as Cam Newton, but he'll play a type of offense like Gus did with Cam because of his size. R.J. Harvey comes back, and there was UCF sitting there with R.J. Harvey, kind of a dual threat in Johnny Richardson, an undersized speed guy, and all of a sudden Penny Boone kind of falls, I would say, lap or an opportunity, and you say to yourself, okay, do we bring in a 1,400-yard rusher with a guy coming back that has all-conference potential, and does it work? And yet R.J. Harvey was on board because Gus had this vision of how he can use both of them. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see McFadden and Jones as they had at Arkansas, but I think Gus saw what you can do. You keep guys fresh. You don't need to have your main back run the ball 25-plus times a game so that you get to the fourth quarter, and hopefully you're able to run the football and wear people down. I think Gus realized that last year. You've got to be able to establish a line of scrimmage. You've got to be able to run the ball. I think UCF's got a great backfield. I mean, they got 4 guys. I mean, they picked up Miles Montgomery, who's a quality back from Cincinnati as well. So they've got a lot of depth at running back.
So, Mark, it was for them some hit and miss, but for the most part, for the first year, I think UCF, proved they belong. Not that there was any doubt about that. There might have been some that thought there was a doubt about that. They seemed like it was a perfect landing spot, and now they understand all of what they need, like you said, and Gus has kind of reacted to that. Is that what you hear from throughout the program?
Yeah, I think so. Look, last year, and every team can do this, they were in several one-possession games. And all due respect, I think, the Baylor game, obviously a game UCF never should have lost. At Kansas State, they got the ball down one score in the fourth quarter, make a mistake with a backup quarterback, cost you the game. Kansas State was a better football team, but UCF was close there. West Virginia, blindside hit, fumble the football when you're trying to tie the game. So those are things that ended up making you be 3-6 instead of maybe 5-4. And then an 8-win seed, you feel really good about yourself. But yeah, I think that they got bigger on lines. They needed depth at linebacker, needed some bigger guys in the secondary, and Gus has been very active in the portal the last couple of years. He'll tell you he's got his best team since he's been at UCF, and I think he'll tell you that he's got a more prepared team for the Big 12. Now they have a better idea about what this league is about. And from a distance, it used to be, hey, just pass the ball, score 50 points first and win. Well, I think UCF saw it last year. You better have guys in the offensive and defensive line, otherwise you can't win in this league.
Brett McMurphy's an Oklahoma State grad, the writer for Action HQ Network, and he said his daughter goes to UCF, and she was like having fun with that blowout win against Oklahoma State, and he said, nothing can bother me right now because we beat Oklahoma in the last ever meeting, so that one didn't count. But that was what happened that game?
Sometimes guys, stars align, and I think, Oklahoma State comes off the emotion of the win in Bedlam. There's a tendency to have a little bit of a letdown. UCF, space game here means funky uniforms, a jacked up crowd, and then some things go your way early. UCF's defense is shutting down Ollie Gordon. They can't throw the ball, and the Knights' offense is winning the battles, and then the rain comes. So by the time the rain came, I think Oklahoma State had checked out. It became a 3-possession game, and then things just kind of snowballed, and then it slips away. Do I think that UCF was 7 touchdowns better than Oklahoma State? No. On that day they were, and things just fell in line. And UCF needed one of those. A lot of close games where things didn't go your way,
right.
and you're gonna have to have that. So I think it just all fell in line last year for them in that particular game. But now I think they've got a team that can sustain drives, that can stop people in a better position. However, they'll play the most challenging schedule in UCF history this season.
All right, so what was your reaction or that around the athletic department on the Brett Yormark and the Big 12 and naming rights for the conference, and also even the possibility of private equity firms?
So, look, on the naming rights side of it, if somebody comes along and says, we'll give you $30 to $50 million to slap our name on your conference in an era now where you're trying to find new dollars, I don't know the downside of that. There's no shortage of wannabe stand-up comics that seem to have anti-Big 12 feelings to begin with. They want to take shots at and everything. And people go, well, what's an additional $2-3 million per program? A lot right now. I mean, that's significant money. I don't know what their name's going to end up being. There'll be no shortage of people that'll take shots at it. And Smoke, you know this, and I said this on my show too. I love the guy on Twitter that wants to take a shot at the Big 12 that worked for a company that was bleeding money that if it didn't get an infusion of cash from somebody, that they wouldn't be in existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this in all due respect. I love a ton of people that work for The Athletic. You can't take a pot shot at the Big 12 because if the New York Times didn't bail you out, there'd be no athletic site. Or I love the guy that works for the large, sports company with 4 letters or one of the others that is ripping the Big 12's naming rights while his column has 8 links to sponsors. I mean, what are we talking about here? It's just where business is right now. On the private equity side, here's the other thing that bothered me also. Has anybody read what the deal is? No, there is no deal yet. So at least learn what the terms are going to be. People said, well, the minute you let private equity in, they're going to cut all your non-revenue sports. You think that the private equity group doesn't understand about what Title IX is? And do you think that Brett Yormark and ADs and presidents haven't said, look, if we take this on, whatever private equity company, these are things that can't go.
Right.
We just can't get rid of them. And I think there's a big difference, a significant difference, and I'm not a financial genius, but I know a little bit about some of this stuff. There's a big difference between private money and private equity. Significant difference. And let's learn whatever the deal ends up being if there is a deal. Let's see what the terms and conditions are before people just make assumptions. Because there are people out there going, they just gave 20% of the league away, and the first thing they're going to do is they're going to cut all these sports and so forth. That is not going to happen because of Title IX. And let's see what the terms and conditions are. And I'm not saying it's going to work, but I don't think the Big 12 is the last conference looking for additional dollars.
Well, and the reason why the Big 12 or anyone else is looking for extra money is because everybody else who's in a different conference now left because they were wanting more money.
Yeah. Look, it's a challenging time. I say this as UCF is embarking, like everybody else in our league, in a different era. And every school has advantages and some challenges. I'll say this about UCF, and I'm not speaking for our athletic director. Guys, again, we get half share again this year. The 4 new ones get full shares. So remember, half of UCF's half share goes to the American to finish the buyout. So in 2 years, or following next year, when the new economic model from the House versus NCAA settlement takes place, whether it's $20 or $22 million, and there's a lot of budgets right now going, where does that money come from? UCF's got a little bit of an advantage. Why? Because they're going to get this jump in media money that they don't have right now. So to go from what has been about 9 to 10 million, because half has gone to the American for the buyout, and next fall, as you go into that year, where now you're looking at 40 plus, that's 30 million more than UCF had been making. I'm not saying they take all the money out of that to do the rev sheet, but they've got that new money where a lot of other existing programs aren't even spending that money. That's a big advantage as UCF kind of figures how to do this in the next several years, because they're operating on a smaller budget because we're not getting a full media share now.
Great point. Mark, thank you very much. Enjoy the summer. Will you be in Vegas?
Well, someone's got to get out there, so you have to do what they're asking you to do. So, what am I going to do? You got to go, right?
Yeah, you got to go. We'll see you there. We'll be there, too. Can't wait. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your time, as always. Mark Daniels, voice of UCF Athletics, with us on 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers, here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Rob Gray, CycloneFanatic.com, joins us on 365 Sports. Again, if you did not hear this earlier, Paul Catalina has been on vacation for the last week. He'll be back on Monday. Craig is out today. He'll be back on Monday, too. Garrett Ross and I running here at the mothership on 101 Elm and MLK in Waco, a mile or so away on the west side of 35 from McLean Stadium. Rob, thank you very much for being a part of the show. So how loaded and reloaded is Iowa State and Matt Campbell?
First of all, thanks for having me, Smokey. I'd say extremely. on both counts. Now, what that translates to from a win-loss record is always a bit of an adventure for the Cyclones, as we've seen in recent years. But I think what ESPN Bill Conley has Iowa State as the second most returning production, 85% or so. However, they measure that on both sides of the ball, or just offensively. Expectations extremely high, given that so many players are coming back who started on the offense and the defense and in special teams. So, they're feeling great. And this, once again, second year in a row, new look Big 12.
Yeah, it is. And now, I forgot who it was, but somebody was mentioning us with Matt Campbell. It might have been Paul when he was talking about Iowa State. He goes, they never seem to string things together, but he actually had 5, I think it was, consecutive winning seasons, and then they blew a tire. But it seemed like when no one expected them, they came right back. And, of course, last year were a nice surprise. Are they a team that is better when they're under the radar or not?
Well, that's a good question. They'll tell you what any staff tells you, that they don't pay attention to what happens, quote unquote, outside their walls and all that. And that may or may not be true on a collective basis. But certainly for individuals, you wonder whether that stuff creeps in. Even Brock Purdy's senior season would be labeled a disappointment after the second 9-win season in program history as a senior with him and Charlie Kohler now with the Ravens, Jake Hummel now with the Rams. A loaded roster. That team just went 7-6, lost the bowl game to I believe it was Clemson that year. So there might be something to that, but I think it's more the fact that to fall into another Campbell trope or a cliche, however you want to call it, winning in the quote unquote margin is important for them, and they were really bad at that in the 2023 season. 2 seasons ago, and they were much better at it last season. And I think that's where they've got to be. Even though they return all this talent and production, it still is not the type of high-end 4- and 5-star talent that you see across a lot of Big 12 rosters, let alone, the elite programs in the country.
So Matt Campbell, the Big 12, we were bringing this up the other day. The Big 12 has Leipold. People wanted him. Obviously, Kleiman. People wanted him. After 21, people wanted Aranda. And the last couple of years have not gone very well. These are guys who have done well before they got into the higher level of college football, as did Matt Campbell. Isn't that pretty cool that they're all around the same area and they're right next to each other and they're having this kind of success?
Well, I think it is. And then you see the ups and downs of each one. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Kleiman, fans were clamoring for him to be, dismissed, because they were struggling a little bit in Manhattan. And obviously, as you mentioned, in your neck of the woods, Dave Aranda has not had the level of success he, extended, from previous eras. But, the last couple of seasons haven't gone as well. Matt Campbell, at Iowa State, it's always, doing more with less. He's had more success certainly than most coaches, maybe any coach in Iowa State history. He's closing in on the all-time wins mark Dan McCarney holds. But I think it's really cool because they're, a lot of them are young coaches. I mean, heck, for people from my area, a couple of them, at least one has Iowa roots. Kleiman at Kansas State came from Waterloo, was on the Northern Iowa staff. And then, Campbell came in, believed, created a different kind of culture at Iowa State where they didn't feel the ceiling was just getting to a bowl game, but the ceiling was competing for a Big 12 title. And they did play in at least one of those games, lost by a touchdown to Oklahoma a few years back. So it's really neat, and it's really kind of neat to see how these coaches also navigate those ebbs and flows, the ups and downs that are inevitable in programs that just aren't almost any program that's outside of a handful.
So let me get to Iowa State. I mentioned they have a bunch of people back. You've mentioned they have to do it a certain way. They're not going to get the 4- and 5-star guys, and a lot of teams in the Big 12 aren't going to do that very often. It's a workmanlike, and sometimes when you say this, it's a workmanlike, people with chips on their shoulder, then that sometimes people think, well, you're saying there's no talent. There's talent there, but it just seems like this is what works best for them, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the blueprint that they followed was, find some under the radar guys don't even worry about the stars they have. Of course, many of them would probably generally grade out to consensus 3 stars. Some of the guys that they've turned into pros, like Brock Purdy, like Charlie Kohler, like Jake Hummel, like Anthony Johnson. Now, a number of guys, much more than in recent years. Pin your hopes on that. They do get guys to the transfer portal. They've had some successes there, but you don't have the kind of NIL money at Iowa State that you have with a lot of the bigger, programs, especially when you're talking SEC Big Ten. So that's the blueprint that they've tried to follow, and so far, I mean, in terms of relative success at Iowa State, it's been unprecedented from Matt Campbell. I mean, for them to become a team that week in, week out, nobody says they don't have a chance. Even in their previous 9-win season with Dan McCarney, there were a few games where you knew they didn't have a chance. In that 2000 season, they didn't have a chance against Oklahoma. They didn't have a chance against Kansas State that year, and it showed. But with Campbell, they pretty much have a chance week in and week out, and that's the unprecedented thing he's been able to do at Iowa State, and that's the formula, the blueprint that they're sticking with in terms of trying to get back beyond 7 wins and get back into that 8-9 win echelon they've been in recent years.
If they don't have if they don't end up better than 7-6 or whatever, what went wrong?
Well, usually it's the special teams failures, inability to make plays in the key moments. I mean, that 2 seasons ago, 6 losses by, a touchdown or less. And you could point to areas in those games where there were just critical breakdowns. The team basically, I would tell people that if you made a list, you cannot do these things if you want to win the game. Iowa State checked every single box, whether it be 5 or 6 boxes, in virtually every loss they had. And, that's for a team that emphasizes, a program that emphasizes how much you have to pay attention to detail, how much you need to win in the quote-unquote margins in order to have success. That was a glaring, chronic breakdown for the team. And then it started to revert back last year. They won a few more close games. It started to do more of those things, executing in those key moments. And, we'll see how this group does. I mean, you got the reigning Big 12 offensive freshman of the year, Rocco Beck's at quarterback. He was courted by significant NIL money that he rebuffed in order to stay for less at Iowa State because he likes what he's got there. He knows what he's got there. And, again, it's always a real season for Iowa State. No matter what the expectations are, and they're very high this season, you just never know what you're going to get because, again, the margin for error is so slim.
Does everything kind of set the table with what happens in at Iowa in week 2?
I feel like that's important, but then again, 2 seasons ago, they went and beat Iowa for the first time in a while in a close game, the one of the rare close games they won. And then after that, they could not, just to save their lives, execute in key moments to win a game. So I feel like, you start with North Dakota. All the Dakota schools now, the FCS level, they're all kind of sneaky good because for some reason they all have a bunch of money. Even not just North Dakota State, South Dakota State, which is all been champion. So that'll be a bit of a test because they always struggle. It feels like against Northern Iowa, another FCS opponent in state. So we'll see how that goes. I feel like if they play well at Iowa and are able to produce offensively to some extent and have a game plan that tries to exploit Iowa's weaknesses instead of playing to its strengths defensively, I think that'll tell a lot. New offensive coordinator and Taylor Mauser after Nate Scheelhaas was 1 year in, and now he's off and on the LA Rams staff. So it's more how they call the game, how they play the game, I think, against Iowa that'll kind of set the table for what comes, in another non-conference game, then, of course, Big 12 play.
Yeah, and you don't know because the Big 12, you never know who's going to jump up out of nowhere. It was Baylor in 21 when you couldn't really see that coming because the year before they were 2-7 COVID. And then TCU not only jumped up but played for the national title despite how it ended. But at Houston and then Baylor, does that kind of have a soft opening type look for them to maybe be able to get out whatever happens with Iowa to jump off to a nice start?
Yeah, it feels like it, but then again, I mean, you never know. I mean, like you said, I mean, they're in Waco. When you don't expect it, sometimes, you know, you got enough talent there that you can catch lightning in a bottle and sustain that for a couple of years before there's another hiccup. And yeah, I've been kind of surprised that the Bears have been down the last couple of years, given Aranda's pedigree and just the trajectory of the program in the previous several seasons. But that it does set up pretty well for Iowa State, especially when you consider other things. Like the Kansas game will be, on paper at least, a neutral site game at Arrowhead Stadium. A lot of Iowa State fans go to Kansas City, as we've seen for the men's and women's basketball tournaments. I know Kansas is on the ride with Leipold, but there will be a lot of Iowa State fans in that stadium as well. So that's not a true road game. That helps a lot. It was already a season in which they have 5 home instead of 4 on the road. So pretty favorable setup all the way. But you're right. At least on paper, it looks like a soft start. But, you know, that remains to be seen, as we often know, every topsy-turvy Big 12 season.
What are your thoughts about the story that was a week ago about the Big 12 looking at naming rights and then also the possibility of a relationship with a private equity firm?
I really would. I like the idea of naming rights a heck of a lot more than throwing your lot in with private equity. I think there's a lot of unknowns there, a lot of things that would remain behind the scenes. I feel like it would be pretty murky for people to try to navigate. And, you know, what are the, you know, with naming rights, it's not that different than just selling the stadium's naming rights. Right? It's like, hey, we just cast a check because All-State or somebody wants to be the All-State Conference, the All-State Big 12 Conference, or, you know, whomever. I feel like that should have more legs if it doesn't already. But I mean, I do give Brett Yormark a lot of credit to know that, hey, the Big 12 wants to be the third conference now that the SEC and you know, TV has helped them. The SEC and Big 10 have really distanced themselves as the top two. And you look at every approach, you look at every possibility, and I give them credit for that. But I'm a bit leery of the private equity thing. I think the naming rights thing, if you can get it, especially given the settlements of the lawsuits and how many athletic departments are going to face significant budget shortfalls. You can take a chunk out of that and to help make up for those shortfalls. I mean, why not do it?
Yeah. There's a reason people have to find more, what I've been saying, you got to find more scratch. You got to find more dollar bills or quarters on the corner. You know, you got to, they have to find a way. And it might be unique, which sometimes people go, ooh, and yet, ooh was really everything that's happened in college football the last 3 to 5 years, from realignment, people leaving because they wanted more money, and they also wanted to play against bigger stadiums against better teams overall. But really, a lot of this is forced because of ooh. And so what will be interesting is if somebody like the Big 12, whoever it is that becomes the name of the conference, if at some point one of the larger of the two biggest conferences would have attached somebody to their name, and then it would be, oh, okay, that's fine. I think it's proactive. Whether or not it works or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I mean, the quote-unquote bigger conferences, the ones that have found the most favor financially, obviously, they can, you know, lift up their nose and, you know, pretend to be this or that. But this has all been, you know, very unseemly, frankly, you know, from all the ways conferences have ended. I mean, excuse me. Iowa State's athletic director, James Pollard, made a point. Iowa State does this tailgate tour every May where they go to smaller towns and go across the state. And you made a point when you asked about some of these things that, you know, when you talk about what should happen or what may happen, you just don't know, and you have to be open to all possibilities. And his point was, who at this point, I don't know, a year ago or 2 years ago, but it's not that the Pac-12 would not be a thing anymore. That the Pac-12 was gone, destroyed. And did the Big 12 destroy it? No, the Big 12 got people from that conference, gave them a lifeboat because it helps the Big 12. You know, that was a TV. Well, the Pac-12 did a lot of it to itself in terms of, you know, not, you know, re-upping on its TV deal, trying to get something better, not going streaming, and then saying, oh, whoops. I mean, that a lot of it was self-inflicted, but a lot of it was this ew factor that you talked about that's been permeating college athletics for a while now, and maybe forever. I mean, just under the surface rather than more in your face. So, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. From the Big 12 perspective, when you're lagging behind the SEC and the Big 10, and you've got, who knows what's going to happen in the ACC, given all the defectors potentially there, the headliners, of course, Florida State, et cetera.
Yeah.
You gotta throw everything on the wall and see what sticks.
We're now joined by Hans Olsen, BYU radio color analyst, former player, joins us on 365 Sports. I saw a note that Hans, BYU this year will celebrate 100 years of football, and some programs have done that. There were some years, obviously, in the early 40s that nobody was playing. But your thoughts, when you think about the history of BYU, what do you think?
Well, I think that it was built by LaVell Edwards. I think that there were some incredible times in the 80s and 90s. I think that in those 100 years, there's been some big ups and downs. I also think, you think about BYU, they've got Doak Walker, they've got Heisman, they've got, a national championship, they've got pageantry and history, and it's been 100 great years of football. And I got to be a part of it for 5 years on the field, and now I'm up in the booth as a color analyst with it. And so it's very near and dear to my heart, man. I love this BYU football.
Hans, as we get closer, of course, media days here in a couple weeks, and then the summer practice after that, and BYU probably getting picked towards the bottom by most people in the media. Do you think that they are poised to surprise people because maybe be last year's West Virginia?
I don't necessarily at this point. We just had our BYU Media Day event. I just got done with it 10 minutes ago. So BYU during Independence ran their own media event, and they wanted to kind of continue that tradition. So they started a BYU Media Event golf tournament, and all the coaches come and players come, and we all golf together. So we just got done with that. I was on air for 3 hours with Kalani and the players, and Jake Retzloff, the quarterback, and Gary Bohannon, the Baylor quarterback that BYU's brought in and has a lot of hope for. And so just got off the air with those guys, and they've got a lot of hope, and they definitely talk like they've got something up their sleeve. There's no question about it. But there's some raw facts that you really have to deal with BYU right now. They got a quarterback coming back that went 0-4. They got a Bohannon that didn't play last year because of injury, but maybe he can be great again. So there's some hope there. We don't know how much they've improved their edge rushing. Only 11 sacks in an entire season. You got to improve that. They know their defense has to get better, but you're looking at the personnel thinking, all right, how much did they improve their defensive personnel? They brought in a linebacker from Weber State, and they landed a couple of big recruits, and we'll see if they can play a part in that. But there was really no large transfer portal landings across the defensive front. So I've got, my expectations are very tempered. They're very realistic. I'm not going to try to overhype a team that I don't know a lot about and I don't have total confidence in, but I can tell you this with 100% certainty. Those guys all day long talk like they got something up their sleeve. They talk like there's something that I don't know, that the country doesn't know, that they know. And Gary Bohannon brings some confidence, and Retzloff's got a ton of confidence. I mean, he's a world-class winning quarterback out of the JUCO ranks that doesn't know how to lose. So they act like they got something we don't know. I just hope it shows on the football field.
What did you think of the bit of action we got to see from Retzloff last year? And as a two-parter to that, how do you think Gary Bohannon factors in? Obviously, he's there to push. He's there to compete. He's got experience. As you said, last year, forgettable. But, what is that dynamic, do you think, in that room? And where can Jake kind of take his game to a different level or improve on last year?
Well, I got to imagine people out in Texas understand Gary Bohannon and that team. There was a lot of around Gary. Gary did his job, and I think he played that position to the point that he needed to play it to get to that championship a couple years back. but that team wasn't a Gary Bohannon team. It wasn't Gary Bohannon and then the Baylor Bears. It was a lot around Gary. And so I understand that. I think everybody here understands that really well. So you need those pieces around him. I just think that there's such a tempered expectation. I think that everybody is going to slow play it, really slow play their cards. But like I mentioned, there's so much hope across the board from this team, and there's a really good vibe. BYU replaced a couple of coaches, and they feel like they really beefed up the offensive line coaching position and the tight end coaching position, and they felt like there were some forced needs for some coaches to be changed out, and they got their wish. So we'll see how it plays.
I was looking at the two most disappointing teams last year, I would think, in the conference were Baylor and BYU. And they had that classic game up in Provo that was unbelievable. Went overtime, a couple of different overtimes or so. But then I look at the stats in the Phil Steele magazine that just came out, and both of them were dead bottom, basically in the bottom three on overall team offense and team defense. Which of those sides of the ball do you think, if it does improve, will it be for BYU this year?
Wow, tough question. Because I'm not seeing the personnel changeover that would make me sway one way or the other. The defensive side is getting a very important safety back in Harper. He's going to be fantastic. And BYU is down to their fifth and sixth string safeties last year. So that's going to be big. They need Ben Bywater back. He's their big-time linebacker, and he suffered a shoulder injury, I believe it was during the Kansas game, and we haven't seen him since. And I'm holding out hope. Like, I've still got my fingers crossed, and I've got a lot of hope that we see him. But we need to see him back in fall camp because he wasn't a spring ball participant before I feel good about that. So that's a tough question. I've got to say probably on the offensive side, because TJ Woods, the new offensive line coach, gives me hope. This new tight end coach gives me a lot of hope, and there should be some good, solid adjustments. But it is year number 2 for Jay Hill and his defensive staff. That was their first year together, was the inaugural year in the Big 12. So maybe they unify and come back bigger and better. But if it was one side or the other, I'm going to take that offensive side.
Hans, this is a conference that's new too. How much of that gives you? Is it optimism or trepidation? Because we've never seen all these teams play together before at all. We don't really know how this is going to go.
It's trepidation because I'm more familiar with the teams that have entered in. I covered the Pac-12 really close for the 11 years that Utah was in it, so I know what Utah is. I know what Arizona is. Arizona's going to be crazy. Colorado's a wild card with Dion Sanders. You never know what you're going to get. Arizona State, I think they've got a long way to come. I think that some of the NCAA regulations that were handed down on them with recruiting and scholarships and bowl stuff, I think that that's really going to hamper their development. But I know what's coming in, and I know what Utah's all about. And they had a 10-year run where they just kept BYU under their thumb. Now, BYU got them the last time they played, and BYU has no intentions of handing over that rivalry will. I guarantee it. Like, they want to bury Utah. But there's some really tough teams coming in. And then just getting to know the Texas Techs, the West Virginias, the Iowa States, getting to know the Kansases of the world, and traveling with the team and being up in those booths and seeing those fan bases and knowing what those teams bring. It's unpredictability. It's really good defense. You know, there's some really unique schemes that TCU brings, that Texas Tech brings, that Iowa State brings, that are very tough to block against. I'm a former defensive and offensive lineman. I transitioned to offensive line when I was in the NFL. So I see what these defenses are bringing. The schemes are difficult. They're so intricate, and hybrid safeties that rush like defensive ends but drop into coverage on tight ends and can lock down and run stride for stride with a tight end, but could still give a stiff arm bull rush off of an offensive tackle. It's unique. It's versatile. It's tough to block against. So I just know, man, this conference is a mess. It is a train wreck. You don't know 1 week from the next what you got to prepare for. Plus, you're still new in the conference and learning what Iowa State's about and learning what TCU is about. I mean, TCU is an old rival, but learning what Texas Tech is about, learning what Kansas State is about. Kansas State is BYU's conference opener. And so, there's a lot they've got to learn.
How do you feel about being in the same conference with Utah? I'd be remiss if we didn't ask you that.
Well, I love it because I played in that rivalry for 4 years. And I do a local show here in Utah, Salt Lake City, and have for 18 years. And that rivalry means a lot to me. The Kalani Sitake, Kyle Whittingham, those are the two head coaches. They're back and forth in rivalry, but friendship is an interesting piece to all of this. I just think it's amazing that they're back in the same conference. I didn't know if I'd ever see it again. And I don't know how long we'll see it because it feels like Utah's shopping out a little bit and potentially wants to find other ground. But maybe we all end up in different ground here in 3 or 4 years. So I don't know how long we get it, but while we've got it, man, I'm going to revel in it. I cannot wait to call that rivalry game.
I noticed this, Hans. Last year, of course, a losing season. Kalani's second year, they had a losing season. But prior to that, you got to go all the way back to Gary Croughton, who had a 12-2 team that had 3 straight losing seasons. And it was LaVell Edwards' second year in his remarkable Hall of Fame career in 1973. It's just not something BYU does. And I mean, that's like 5 losing seasons since 1973, which is really it's very impressive. Very impressive.
It is, and it's something Kalani knows. I played with Kalani for 3 years. We left as seniors together. In fact, me, Kalani, and LaVell Edwards, we all left together in 2000. We were his final senior crew. And I know very well that illustrious career he put together, and Kalani knows it better than anybody. And it weighs heavy on him. I wish everybody knew how much responsibility he takes in all of this. He knows that another losing season is disgusting, unacceptable, horrifying, but potentially job-altering. He knows it. And it's like watching a prized fighter that has lost a battle. He knows he's kind of at that age, that tender age where things could maybe turn downhill, but he's got one last shot to regain the title. And that's where Kalani is, man. He's ready to throw big haymakers. He's going to pull out all the stops. He brought in his mentor to be one of his eyes in the sky, one of his major analysts, a former Wisconsin head coach, former Utah State head coach, former Oregon State head coach, and Gary Anderson, to be a part of that staff. They've all geared up. They know they're in the trench together. They know what's on the line. And to your point, losing and a losing season is unacceptable at BYU. Cougar fans can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. Nobody likes it. You are the bad guy when it happens, and Kalani knows it, and he's taking it personal.
Can you give us your favorite Kalani Sitake story, whether it was funny or something that whoa, he was fired up?
Well, Kalani, oh, man, he actually saved my life. When we were playing together, we used to do WWF nights in the hotel rooms. So a bunch of us would get in the hotel rooms, and we'd fly off the cupboards and come off the top shelves, and we'd drop the people's elbow, and we'd suplex. And we got carried away one night, and I suplexed him and dislocated his elbow before a game. And he was the big dog. And he said that it happened in the walkthrough, and he covered for me. And I will never forget that, because I thought I was dead meat. I thought the coaches were going to kill me. But he's such a stand-up guy. You know, one thing that I've learned about him is his players are everything to him. The school doesn't matter like the players matter to him. Coaches don't matter like players matter to him. If he can't do it right by the players, he'll get out of the game. I've seen him pull from his own pocket. I've seen him do what he needs to do to make sure that kids have roofs over their head, that they've got food in their belly, that they've got as much comfort as they can within the constructs of the NCAA. And those things have loosened up, obviously, with the new NIL stuff. But, man, he's passionate about those kids.
So I have to clarify this. Was he a player, too, or was he an assistant coach at that time?
No, he was a player.
So did he miss the game?
He sure did.
Wow. Yeah,
Yep.
he did cover for you, didn't he?
Yeah.
Now, Hans, is it okay? Because we'll have him on maybe at Big 12 Media Days in Vegas. Can we bring that up and see his reaction?
Absolutely.
All right.
Bring it up and say,
Well,
we talked to Hans Olsen, and he said that, that he hit you with a suplex and jacked your elbow, and you covered for him. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a team player right there. You weren't because you injured him. But I mean,
I really would not. Like, I just had when you told the story, the vision in my head of LaVell Edwards, hearing like the truth of that story, and then talking to you. Not talking to you. It would not have been a talk, I'm sure. But
I've got the unjust record of being the only guy LaVell ever kicked out of a spring game. I dropped a knee on an offensive lineman from the top rope, and they booted me out of the game. So LaVell already had his beef with me, but I was also his favorite son. Like it was a love-hate between. But if he'd have found that out, I don't know. I probably would have been benched. I'm sure he would have never forgiven me because Kalani was kind of the heart and soul of that team, and man, LaVell loved him. But I will tell you too that ended up turning into a full battle royale. So Kalani went out of that WWF event with an injury. I ended up getting thrown into a plate glass window. We broke a whole mirror off the side of a wall because another D tackle on the team threw me into the mirror, and it ended up turning like we tore that place apart like we were a rock band. And we all got in big trouble.
Who says the BYU can't tear it up? I mean, come on.
We're not all choir boys.
You have mentioned LaVell Edwards, and we know what he did. Hall of Fame, national championship, all the things that he did. When you found out that he had passed away, what did he mean to you? And we know what he's meant to BYU, but what about your relationship with him?
Yeah, wow. Without getting too emotional on air, so I had the incredible opportunity to do a Friday football show with him for the final 8 years of his life. And we would do 2 hours together on air. It was me, him, my co-host Scott Gerard, who's the voice of Utah State, and Ron McBride, who's a former head coach at the University of Utah. And we would sit around and tell old stories and talk about the upcoming games. And those football Fridays were a blessing in my life. And he refused to call me Hans. He called me Oren, who was my uncle that played for him. He called me Lance, who was an assistant that coached for him. And he would joke with me and rib me for 8 years on air. And what's crazy, guys, he was gone about 4 months after our last show.
Wow.
He went until pretty much his final breath, talking football, loving football, studying it, watching the games with passion in his heart, and his mind was all there. He was recalling incredible things from the mid to early 70s, and he was a gem. He loved people so much. If he'd met you and he knew you, he just loved you to death. And his wife, Patty, is still with us, and she is still like a mom, and she's still just an incredible woman and healthy as you'd ever imagine. And she's got to be 92, 91, 92. And she's doing just amazing. By the way, Ron McBride, he just turned 85 yesterday, and he's still doing football Fridays with us.
Isn't that crazy?
That will not change. These men mean more to me than any job could ever mean, and we just have a blast with it.
Yeah, you could tell, and also love the emotions about Kalani, LaVell Edwards, among many others. Hans, thank you very much for your time. We really do, and look forward to having you on again. Love talking to you. Great segment, great emotions, and also some great storytelling. Have a great day.
Cannot wait for the season upcoming. Always love being on the show. You call me anytime, boy.
Yes, sir. That's Hans Olsen.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers, and only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America, 5 locations in Waco, and the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Brennan, the head coach at Arizona, the Wildcats, joins us on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoke. Coach, thank you very much for your time. Does the summer have any slowdown effect, or because of how the NCAA is and all the rules, is it also basically full throttle?
There's definitely a little bit of a slowdown in July, I think, but it's still you're never fully away, or you're never fully off. Just the cell phone keeps us tethered to the job, and it needs to, because it's either your current players or your future players that you're constantly talking to, working with, trying to either recruit, or you're talking about what's going on here. So it never stops.
What you've taken new jobs, obviously, throughout your career. What's different now about how fast you have to hit the ground running compared to how fast you even still had to hit the ground running in the previous era of college football?
I think right now the urgency is all based on retention of the roster. That part of it is just the most important thing, and it was especially important here at Arizona because Coach Fish and that previous staff had recruited and built and developed a good football team. And so it was really important for us to give those guys a chance to get to know us and hopefully choose to stay at the University of Arizona. And so that's the biggest thing, is just that the urgency you feel, trying to build relationships, trying to build trust, trying to give those guys an idea of who you are as a coach, who you are as a person, and so that hopefully they'll think that staying at that, at Arizona or wherever it is a good idea.
Coach, you've got a bunch of good players coming back that you were able to retain, but you got a couple of headliners there, and Noah Fafita, your quarterback, Teteroa McMillan, among others, like I said. But can you just speak to the talent level, and if you want to get into those two individually, by all means, however you want to direct this, but what you did retain, what you walked into and were able to hold on to, just how good of a group do you think you have there?
I think we've got a great group, and honestly, I give these players all the credit in terms of they were the ones that were so committed to each other and so connected that they wanted to continue on this journey at Arizona together. And, I think they love the city of Tucson. They love the U of A. As you guys know, there's the uniqueness of this university with its relationship to the city, because it's the only thing here. Right. And so, there's no pro franchise, and we're not sharing this space with like my last job. I was sharing that space with the 49ers and the Warriors and the Giants and the A's and the Earthquakes and the Sharks and Stanford and Cal, right? Like, we just don't have that, so it's a much different dynamic. And those players were amazing. Fafita and T-Mac, they were definitely the ringleaders, but there was a lot of other guys that contributed to, the roster staying together. Jacob Manu, Jordan, Big Jonah Samanea, Gunnar Maldonado, Traden Stukes, Dalton Johnson, Takario Davis, stuck with it and stayed through spring. And so, those guys have done a fantastic job of just really bonding together and staying committed to each other first and foremost, and then also to the University of Arizona.
Arizona has recruited the state of Texas in the past, and it now is a part of the Big 12, which has teams in the Big 12. How much has that helped you in Texas, or at least maybe even go deeper?
No, I think that's a big part of it. Texas has always been a hotbed for high school football players. And I think where we are positioned in terms of our location as a school, I think we're in a great location because we have really good high school football here in Arizona. We have good proximity to California, and then we also have pretty good proximity to Texas. And now that we're playing games in Texas, those families of the players that we're recruiting down there, they know that we're going to be coming to town with this, with the Arizona football team, and they can watch their sons, play for us if they feel like we're the best fit for them. So I'm excited for us to get down in Texas. I had to recruit Central Texas a little bit and greater, Dallas and the Metroplex and some of that when I was an assistant coach at Oregon State. But I've always had incredible respect for the quality of the players, how well coached they are. A lot of those players there, when they get to you, they've been part of something that, really strongly resembles a college football program in terms of the structure and the discipline and the detail of it. And so a lot of those players come ready to play, and we're looking for that.
Coach, speaking of recruiting, thank you for taking some time out for us. I figured you were going to have more commits rolling in the way you guys have been on fire here in the month of June. I mean, my goodness, it's been a run. I know that you've got visits going on, so a lot of schools are picking up pledges, but you guys seem to be really hot right now. What do you attribute that to, and what is your message to new recruits?
That's a good question. I think we're really fortunate. I think we have a great recruiting staff here. I think our assistant coaches work really hard at it. They're good people. For us, we're always going to lean more to the, this is more of a lifetime decision. It's a brotherhood decision. If it feels right, then it is right. And, that's like our thing is that we're going to be super connected as a team and really connected to our players and our coaching staff. And I think, that's one of the ways where you can really maximize development on and off the field is by having a deep level of trust between the players and coaches. And that's something we work hard at every day, just defining that culture and building it. And this team loves each other, and it's a really special group to be a part of. And I think when recruits come here, they feel that. And I think when the parents get to spend time with our coaching staff, they have a clear understanding that, we're going to care about the players. It's going to be the player first, the person first and the player second. And we're always going to lean that way. And if we help these young people get in a good place mentally, emotionally, spiritually, academically, the football stuff will take care of itself, and the parents can see that and feel that.
Have you felt that even though college athletics continues to be chaotic and the rules are ever changing, or there's not rules, or there's not it's hard for us to even know everything. But if you felt at least in the last, it at least appears to me on the outside looking in, that more coaches have figured out a better balance of retaining the roster. And obviously, there might be more recruiting periods or change of the recruiting periods to help that out. Do you feel like you've maybe figured it out with retention and all that, in spite of the fact that you do have to be ready for any kind of chaos that happens to your roster at any given time?
Yeah, I don't know. I think every time you do it, you're just doing the best you can. Like, every situation you go into is different. When we took over San Jose State 8 years ago, I think it was 8 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, there was no portal. There was no NIL. Like, the world was so much different. This one here was challenging because they were coming off a good season. And so the retention piece was so important. But I don't know that – I think you're always trying to figure it out the best you can. Our way here is we're always going to lean into the personal side of things and the connection side. That's where we're most comfortable. We feel like that builds the most meaningful experience for the players. And then I think that also makes you hard to beat on Saturday if you're really truly connected and committed that way.
How big of a recruit was Dwayne Aquina coming back?
Well, that's a huge part of Texas for us, right? Like, just obviously the success he had there at Texas as an assistant coach for all those years, and Mac Brown. And, we're going to lean heavily on Coach Aquina just because he's truly one of the best football coaches I've ever seen or been around, but he's also an incredible human being. He's got great energy. It's funny. There's moments in practice where, I see him, I don't know how old he is. I think he's in his mid 60s, but he's running around the field, hollering, chest bumping, high fiving. And I literally have to check myself. I'm like, golly, you need to get your ass going. Coach Aquina's kicking your ass today. But he's great. And obviously, because of his track record as a coach, I think recruits are gonna feel that and want to be a part of that.
Why was Dino Babers the name that you looked towards when it came to running the offense? We touched on some very talented players that you have coming back. He's got experience here in Texas. He was here in Waco at one point in time. Runs a up-tempo offense. Just what was sort of the idea behind going that direction with your offense?
Well, I don't know if you guys know it or not, but I was a graduate assistant here at Arizona in 2000.
Yep.
Dino Babers was the offensive coordinator, and so Dino's been a mentor of mine ever since. And we've always stayed in touch, and we've always had a really healthy relationship. When I first got hired at San Jose State, during my wife and kids weren't there yet. And so during my spring break, I flew to Syracuse, New York, and I spent a week with Dino. I stayed at his house. I watched, and we talked head coaching stuff. We talked philosophy. We talked personnel. We talked scheme. And I was there. It was awesome. It was just, I was there with him 24/7 for that week. And so he's always been, even as I was going through things as a head coach, he's a guy that I would call and bounce ideas off of. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Have you ever done this? Or, hey, this happened. How did you handle it? So he's always been a really important guy in my career. And so it was really kind of lucky. I just called him to check in. I think I'd been on the job for, I don't know, a week maybe. I just called him to check in, and he happened to be in Phoenix buying a house because,
wow.
He just got let go of Syracuse, right? And he's got grandkids down here, and they had time in Arizona that they loved, and so they just bought a house up in the Chandler area outside of Phoenix. And he said, "Well, I'm in Phoenix right now. I'm closing on a house today." And I said, "Do you want to come talk to me?" And he said, "Yeah, I do." And so he came down, and we had the conversation, and we got to a point where we were both excited about working together again.
What would have happened had you not called him? I mean, would he have contacted you because of the proximity?
I think eventually, but I don't think we would have ended up working together again. And for me, having another head coach on the staff that's coached at a high level, lots of great places he's been, he's had success obviously offensively. That part of it was exciting. Like just having another person in the room that's been in the chair that has an idea what it's all about. Those guys are really helpful. And then I knew we were going to have some young coaches on the staff that are aspiring coordinators and are people that are trying to grow in the profession. And who better to teach them the way than one of the guys that taught me?
Well, Craig asked you earlier about Tataroa McMillan. One of the things we know about Dino Babers just throughout his career is, every coach kind of has a knack for certain positions. Like Nick Saban was the king of defensive backs. And Dino Babers is kind of a guy that when it comes to wide receivers, he sees stuff that most don't. He's like a wide receiver whisperer, so to speak, isn't he?
No, absolutely. And, I got to experience that with him here when I was a graduate assistant years ago. And to this day, he and I always talk about wide out play. I was a receiver coach my whole career until I became a head coach. And so that's really a kind of a cool common thing that we have that we like to talk about. And then one of the young men that we were coaching when we were here in 2000 is who we hired to coach our receivers, Bobby Wade, who was a 8 or 9 year NFL vet, leading receiver in the history of Arizona. So there's a lot of alignment in the wide out space with Coach Babers and Bobby and I, and it's going to be a lot of fun to be a part of.
Brent Brennan, the head coach at Arizona, with us on 365 Sports.
It's very cool. Coaching's such a small world, isn't it? Like, even though it's a big, wide world, it's just amazing all the connections and how, all these years later you can run back into each other. So that's very cool, parts of how your staff has come together. Coach, the Big 12 is not what it was even a few years ago. It's a league that's very much in transition as a result of all the different realignment things going on, and who knows what the future holds really for any part of college football. But what do you think of the league that you guys are entering? Do you have any particular things that are notable to you, maybe other connections on other staffs? Just what are your thoughts on Big 12 year one for Arizona Wildcat football?
I think it's exciting. Like, I really do. I think it is a very, very good conference. I think, maybe it's not getting the credit it deserves when you look at how good the teams are top to bottom. I think it's very, very impressive. As for us, it's going to be a lot different, right? At least, having played in the Pac-10 and coached in the Pac-12 and being a West Coast guy, you knew what those venues are. You knew what the weather was. You knew what the crowd was going to be like. We're going to be playing in a bunch of new places where we've never been before, where we haven't coached in games, or we haven't played in games yet. So there's going to be definitely a learning curve for our football program and for our players here. But we're excited about it. Like, I think we're in a great spot. I have a ton of respect for everybody in this conference. It's extremely well coached. There's a ton of talent here. There's going to be good football teams every week. And every week you're going to walk into a stadium that's going to be packed and rocking. So let's go. College football. It's awesome.
So I know Colt's a little younger than you, but if he threw passes to you and he overthrew you or you dropped a pass, what would you guys say to each other?
He'd just say, catch the effing ball, probably.
Oh, I love that. I know there's still a long way to go before the season. I know you got to go as well. But with McMillan, he did not play in the spring game. Is everything going according to plan with him?
Yeah, he's doing great. He's moving right along. He's on track, and he's such a hard worker, and he's such a committed player. I expect him to have a fantastic football season.
Last question I have is, you got there, the transition, the coaching change, and so much going on. What was that like? Because you're trying to find out maybe where your desk is, much worse where you're going, even though you'd been there before. Was that just a blur to you for a while?
It was really hectic. You're trying to spend a lot of time to get to know the players and meet them, and for them to get to know me and get a feel for me and the coaching staff. Obviously, a ton of kind of recruitment of players, intros to donors, NIL people, like there's just like that part, then the whole athletic administration and meeting all these people. So it was absolutely chaotic, I'd say, for the first 2 weeks. And then it kind of settled down and it definitely started to get into a groove. And we started, we kind of looked at it like we were trying to get through Jed's portal first, because that's every head coach that leaves creates a 30-day portal at that school. So we were trying to get through that. And then then it was spring practice, and then there's the post-spring portal. Like, oh my God, here we go. And so, but once we got to the football and got out on the field and got to the off-season training program, it was a lot of fun. And we just leaned into that part of it and started having a great time with these players and this coaching staff and being here at the U of A. So I'd say right now we're feeling great. We're excited.
Well, with Fafita, McMillan, and many others, plus other flips and commitments you've been able to have even recently, you guys did a hell of a job considering what could have happened. Thank you for your time, Coach. We look forward to seeing you at Big 12 Media Days in Las Vegas.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
Thank
Bear
you.
down.
Brent Brennan. Thanks to Jeff Bowe, by the way, for helping with that interview, setting up Brent Brennan, head coach at Arizona. Brian Haney, the voice of KU Athletics, joins us on 365 Sports with Paul Catalina, Craig, and David Smoke as we take you up until 6. Brian, thanks for your time. Expectations for KU in football at probably near an all-time high. and it's deservedly so. They've earned that, but it all comes down, do you agree with the health, and can Jaylen Daniels stay that way?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. You've obviously done your homework. It's clearly a preseason of anticipation levels that we haven't seen since the late Mark Mangino era. People forget that Mangino won 20 games in a span of 2 seasons back in 07-08, including a 12-1 Orange Bowl championship season. But then the wheels fell off the wagon right after that, and there was a kind of a player, treatment scandal that led to his, separating of ways with the university, and ultimately Kansas fell into a cycle of about a decade and a half after that, where they tried 5 different coaches to try to get the train back on the tracks. And finally it stuck with Lance Leipold. And for just the second time in school history, and the first time since that 07-08 stretch that I talked about, KU's gone to back-to-back bowl games. And this season has a chance to, for the first time ever, make it 3 straight years of bowl eligibility. But obviously, with a team that brings back this much talent and has a chance to be in the mix for Big 12 title consideration and college football playoff inclusion, bowl eligibility is just kind of a baseline level expectation, which sounds crazy to say for a program that was down and out for over a decade, the lowest rung on the Big 12 ladder. But they've got their sights set sky high here in 2024, and plenty of reasons to feel that way with the momentum that Lance Leipold has built in just 3 short years here at KU.
Have you guys got any insight on Jaylen Daniels' specific back condition? Is it something that they feel is chronic, or is it something that they feel that now, with all the time he's been shut down, he will have healed from?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. He's full systems go at this point, and really embracing all of the preseason hype and expectation levels, and knows that this team will go as far as he can take them. Last year, obviously, Kansas had a great advantage in having Jason Bean waiting in the wings, and he stepped in and saved the season when Daniels went down. And as Smoke alluded to there at the start, it's a situation where Daniels has only averaged 6 games played per season over his previous 4 years. So we know for this club to compete for the Big 12, to have a chance to even be in the conversation for the college football playoff, you got to get double-digit starts out of JD6. And that's obviously easier said than done. But right now he feels great, looks great, has an outstanding attitude, and knows opportunity is knocking for him personally and for his professional future and all that, but also his legacy. Obviously, he's brought a lot of excitement to this fan base, but how he'll be remembered is largely about to be determined in these next 6 months. And, is it going to be a case of a guy who flashed brilliant potential but never was able to fully realize it due to the injury bug biting so often? Or is it a narrative where he finally puts it all together, has that storybook season where he's able to play, for the full 4 months, and Kansas does something historic? We're hoping it's the latter, but obviously a lot will have to go into that. And Kansas certainly is preparing behind him with Cole Ballard, who we saw, have some big moments, including the Kansas State game and Texas Tech games a year ago. And then obviously Isaiah Marshall is a really highly recruited freshman that comes in that we feel is the future of this program. Hopefully a guy they don't have to tap into until 2025. Meaning Jaylen Daniels had a very successful and healthy senior season.
Brian, they are loaded at running back. Quarterback, they obviously feel good about. Wide receiver, they feel good about. I know the offensive line is still a question mark, but losing Andy Kotelnicki, Jeff Grimes comes in. We obviously have seen him the last few years. That wide zone plays right into what they're already doing up there at Kansas, and so it's not like he's coming in and starting from scratch necessarily, but it will be different. How different do you expect? What's been kind of just the thoughts on Grimes this spring and what they've been focusing on offensively as they welcome him in?
Well, he's been obviously a treat to work with. I know you guys experienced that firsthand. Just a first-class guy. He's got plenty of great innovative ideas, but he's also smart enough to know that if something's rocking and rolling as is, you come in and you make little adaptations and augmentations to it, but you don't reinvent the wheel. And those were his own words. He's not going to come in and turn tables over and completely start from square one with something that right now is rolling, and almost all of your skill position offensive talent returns. They lose Mason Fairchild, the starting tight end, but otherwise everybody's back. And so yes, he will put his own wrinkles into it. There will be variations that look a little bit different, but a lot of the similar concepts that have worked for Kansas the last few seasons will very much still be in the mix for KU here in 2024. But you alluded to Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw in the backfield. Neal has a chance, should he stay healthy, to leave this season as the school's all-time rushing record holder, to leave as a second-day NFL draft pick perhaps. And while he was the number one rated prospect in the state of Kansas coming out of Lawrence High School 4 years ago, not many would have thought he would have accomplished this much heading into his senior year, and realistically could have gone pro at the end of last season. Highshaw is a guy who'd be an absolute star on most teams, but there's probably 4 or 5 teams in this Big 12 that have an embarrassment of riches at running back, and Kansas, for a change, is one of those teams. And he's a guy that forms a great 1-2 punch, a guy that can run through you and bounce off you and bulldoze you on top of what Devin Neal brings as a little more shifty guy back there. So it's a really nice problem to have with 2 very capable guys you want to keep fed back there. But honestly, the running back depth goes much, much deeper, and it's probably one of the deepest parts of this Kansas team. So a lot of excitement in the backfield, no doubt, but so too with the receivers. They love what they have, obviously, with the tight end group, even without Fairchild, with guys like Cardell and Casey coming back. So the skill position talent, the playmakers here are about as good as I can remember since those 07-08 days I referenced earlier when Todd Reesing was throwing touchdowns to Kerry Meyer and Desmond Briscoe, and you had multiple NFL-type players, Derek Fine at tight end. It's as good as it's been since then.
All right, so we know that Lance Leipold's ridiculous record at Wisconsin Whitewater with 6 national titles, played for a 7th, lost, 6 games in 8 years, had to rebuild Buffalo, but he did. It got hot at the end. And he knew what he needed to do, or at least thought he did when he arrived at Kansas. What makes him, in your opinion, so special?
Well, I think he's done an amazing job of building a culture here that guys want to be a part of. You hear that all the time, and it sounds so cliche and coach speak, but it really is true. When you're a program like Kansas that's trying to climb out of, as I said earlier, being the lowest rung on the Big 12 ladder for over a decade, you got to convince guys at the onset that you're building something special. But then once they start to get some notoriety and recognition and start to make some headlines, then you got to find a way to keep them. And Kansas has done a brilliant job under Leipold of being able to keep the vast majority of its stars. And certainly they've been competitive in the NIL landscape, but this was a program that late Les Miles era was losing all its best defensive players to SEC schools, and you felt like, man, rich get richer, poor get poorer. We see KU basketball capitalize on that all the time, but is KU football going to be this, vultured program where they get picked apart every year just as soon as they get something fancy and shiny and new that another team might covet? Leipold's developed the culture, and I give Matt Gildersleeve, his strength coach, a lot of the credit here because Coach Leipold does in getting these guys bought in, believing in what's going on here, and then wanting to stick and stay because the culture across the board is so good. And on top of that, there's a lot of great things going on around this program. This team this season will be displaced and have to play away from home because they're building a brand new $450 million football stadium. And you guys can speak firsthand knowing the effect that can have on a program when you have excellent facility upgrades. And so it's been an exciting time to see the tangible success on the field, but the culture he's created, the continuity amongst the coaching staff. I mean, prior to losing Scott Fuchs, our O-line coach, and you mentioned Andy Kotelnicki, the OC earlier, the previous offseason, they didn't lose a single coach, coordinator, or staff member. First time that happened at Kansas in over 20 years. And so the coaches are staying. By and large, the players are staying. And it's led to momentum just kind of building off each other, one game to the next, 1 week to the next, one season to the next. And that's just not something we've been able to sustain historically. It feels different this time around, though, guys, because Lance has turned down multiple opportunities to leave for quote-unquote bigger schools. And now he's got the new stadium on the way. They're hoping this season's on-field success will continue in that upward trajectory coming off 9 wins a year ago. And if that's the case, why would you leave? Because he's got a great chemistry and rapport with his athletic director that hired him, Travis Goff. He's been given everything he asked for at every turn at this point, and he's delivered on everything. So they love him here. They'll build a statue for Lance Leipold if he wanted it, amongst his fan base, that is. And so just, keep on building as he has been, brick by brick, piece by piece. And so long as the key people in terms of relationships, AD, chancellor, head coach, assistants stay in place, they've got a really good thing rocking and rolling right now. And they feel like that continuity and that momentum can be sustained, maybe for the first time in school history.
What is the thing outside of Jaylen Daniels' health that is the most nerve-wracking for the team, or I guess the biggest question that they have not solved yet?
Well, I think we were a little concerned heading into the summer on what was the pass rush going to look like, and they've had some progress in that regard that I can't speak to specifically until guys are signed and on campus, since I work for the school. But they've done very good in recruiting, in shoring up the pass rushing department, where they lost Austin Booker probably a year earlier than they thought they would. He ends up being drafted by the Chicago Bears. And he was a breakthrough, all Big 12 star in his lone season as a Minnesota transfer. And so that was a concern. They also had some concerns on the offensive line based on a couple of departures and then a spring injury, but those have largely been addressed as well. So, again, you don't know until you line it up the first week of August and start to see what it's going to look like. But in the trenches, there were a few holes you could point to. And obviously losing Scott Fuchs to the Tennessee Titans, our O-line coach, that's going to be interesting to see, how they do without him. But I think by and large, from a personnel standpoint, you like what you have at most spots. And it's not quite as, you used the term scary earlier, or concerning, as perhaps it was with some unanswered questions in April or May. So shaping up to inter fall camp feeling pretty dang good at just about every single spot.
Brian, it was a new year for the Big 12 last year, a year of transition, 4 schools coming in, 2 schools on their way out. Now the 2 schools are out, the 4 schools are settled in, and there's 4 more new ones rolling through now to join the party. Who knows what 5-10 years down the road looks like, but just what do you make of this Big 12 as a league, and what are you maybe excited for? I know that you can't, scheduling-wise, go see every single spot necessarily during the football season, but what stands out to you, and just what do you make of kind of this mutant Frankenstein league it's turned into these past couple of years?
Well, I, for one, am excited about it. If you're going to have change, which no matter what field we work in or aspect of life we live in, you have to deal with change all the time, right? If you're going to inevitably have it on the college football and basketball landscape, I'm embracing it as a chance to, form new friendships, see new fan bases, new common sports traditions, new venues, all that. And then as the tectonic plates continue to shift underneath us, keeping one eye open that it's probably going to continue to evolve and change, but making the most of these different incarnations as we have them. 12, 13 years ago when TCU and West Virginia joined the league, some of those guys have become our best friends in the conference. I'm speaking from a broadcaster standpoint, with guys like Tony Creedy and Brian Estridge. And the same will be true with the new relationships we form with these 4 new schools, and one of which is a school coming back in Colorado. Mark Johnson, the voice of the Buffs, who I say has the voice of God, very deep voice, Mark Johnson. Can't wait to get him back in the league. Can't wait to, go to new places for us, like going to Tucson and Tempe and obviously out to see Utah. And for us this upcoming season, from a Kansas scheduling standpoint, we didn't get to go to Provo in football or basketball last year. So I can't wait to see what BYU has to offer there. And so I'm embracing all the change. I'm one of those guys. I'm kind of a nerd. I have a running list of every stadium and campus I've ever broadcast a game on, and I'm trying to go to all of them before it's all said and done. The goal used to be, go to the Power 5 or Big 6 or whatever. I don't know what we'll be calling it in 20 years by the time I finish this list in terms of power whatever. We may just have 2 conferences at that point. But I'm trying to go to them all. And so I, for one, am loving the change. And I think if the common fan can get their mind wrapped around that as well and just be excited about chances to see new places and meet new people, is maybe the best way we can look at it. Because otherwise, if we get too swept up in what we're losing and saying goodbye to and old traditions that will be no more, it kind of steals your joy a little bit. So yeah. I for one, am forward thinking and looking ahead to it.
Brian, great to have you on, man. Good stuff, and we'll be in touch again. Are you going to be at Big 12 Media Days in Vegas?
Yeah, it's going to be there, man. Can't wait. We'll see you guys out there.
We'll see you there. Thank you very much for your time. The voice of KU Athletics, Brian Haney, with us.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Joe
was on camera.
Baylor radio color analyst, former Baylor quarterback, with us on 365 Sports. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, David Smoke. It's been a while. Great to have you, JJ. Did you ever throw down the horns down sign in a game against Texas?
Yes. I'm trying to think what player has not thrown horns down.
So what was the reaction back then? Because obviously it became overly sensitive in the last decade.
Yeah, I think that's a recent thing. When we played them, when I played, it wasn't as big outside of the Texas OU game, but I remember playing down there in Smoke probably my sophomore year. We won the game, and I think I flicked horns down at least twice. So, the players really didn't react like they have. Everything's so sensitive now that everybody kind of has their feelings on their sleeve. But it's no big deal.
Yeah. JJ, do you think it will be a penalty in the SEC like it was in the Big 12?
How can I say this? No. Not even close.
Yeah.
JJ, what do you just make of the Big 12 rolling in this year where there's all this onboarding going on? I know at the end of the month there will be more of that as well. I know you want to play Texas and play Oklahoma. You wanted to play A&M back in the day. All that's out there, but now Arizona State, Utah, so on and so forth. Just what do you make of all the changes, and how do you feel about the new look Big 12?
It'll be a change. I know last year we didn't. You don't play everybody. I kind of like that. But overall, I like what Mark and those guys were able to do. I mean, the landscape was, man, it was the speed of sound, and I believe the conference that we've been able to put together is exciting. I mean, we have some great brands. You still have Oklahoma State. I believe Baylor's a great brand. I believe TCU's a great brand. Utah's a solid team. You have Arizona State, Arizona, and, of course, BYU. I don't want to leave anybody out. There's many others. Kansas is going to be really good this year, K-State. So I like the conference we've been able to pull together and think it'll be really competitive.
JJ, they have the two quarterbacks, DeQuan Finn, who came in from Toledo, and Sawyer Robertson, who's coming back. He was already on campus, a guy that Mike Leach recruited when he was at Mississippi State. Do you have any idea where they're leaning and your thoughts about what they might do?
You know, I'm not sure, Smoke. I try my best to stay away from the offseason, but I've heard Sawyer was solid. I think they like DeQuan Finn. Sometimes I don't know in practice and a lot of stuff they're doing now, they don't want to show too much in public because of NIL and transfer and people poaching your guys. But I think the guys, if you think about it, are similar in the sense that Sawyer, I believe, his legs are better than I thought. I mean, he showed that he can use his feet, and I believe the spread will really help him. So I think it'll be competitive in the fall. And if I had my druthers, I think, with DeQuan coming in, unless like Sawyer goes and just outperform him, and I don't want to take away competition, I think DeQuan with his experience probably gets the nod if he performs. Because you have Sawyer that got some experience last year as well. So it'll be interesting.
Do you think there's a legit battle, or is it DeQuan Finn's to lose?
My feeling is that I think with Aranda, I hate to say anything is just his to lose. I think he probably told him, hey, there's a great chance to compete is my understanding. And I think that he looked around. DeQuan is kind of what we've really been looking for as far as the dual threat quarterback, puts stress on defenses. But I really believe Sawyer has a chance. I mean, think about it. Sawyer played good football against Utah, and if he doesn't get hurt, he may actually get us a dub in that game. So I think it's going to be really competitive, and I think if it's close, DeQuan will play because of the experience.
JJ, how do you feel about the change over in offense to what Jake Spavital likes to do as opposed to the wide zone, run heavy, tight end heavy type of offense that we've seen the past few years with Jeff Grimes? I mean, we're still going to see run heavy, but just a different style across the board. What are your kind of early impressions and just early thoughts on what they've done, not only with the coaching change, but personnel-wise on offense as well?
Yeah, Spavital, I know I'm not probably saying his name, but I like his offense. I like spreading guys out. I like having the opportunity to create advantages. I like the wide zone, but it really required you to have some guys up front. They didn't have to be dominant, but they had to be coordinated. They had to be together, and you really had to win certain matchups to make that thing work in multiple places. Here in the spread, as we found out against Texas State, and I know we got one of the receivers, man, as long as your guys can hold up for, 2.5 seconds, you got a one-on-one match that you like, you can take advantage of that. So I like the offense. I like the spread. I hope it'll be interesting to see how the tempo is. But I think also creating those lanes inside where you don't have to be dominant, you just can get position helps the run game as well. So I like it.
JJ, how would you describe, I don't want to say desperate, but Dave Aranda has to win, and everybody else around him that he's brought in or whatever knows they have to win. Now, I don't know what the number is or what the start has to be or the win total at the end of the year. Well, I don't know that. But what's it like, do you think, to coach a team or the team to know that you have to win? Not just because you should, but that is something that is a must.
Welcome to big time athletics, and I think Aranda knows that. I mean, this thing now, Smoke, man, it's big time, it's big boy stuff. So, you win, or the constituents are gonna get a little restless, and they're gonna make a change. And Aranda came in, COVID. Okay, we throw that one out. Had a really good year, won the conference, and then we've had two, what I would say people feel like it was below the expectation. So I've actually liked the desperation because I think that's how you have to participate in this space now. You have to make, not that you're looking desperate and like I just need you, you wonderful player, but I think you just kind of have to have that energy and edge that, hey, it's time for us to win now. So I've been excited about the kids, the young men they've been able to bring in, how he's had to go about things. And I think we'll see the best version of Aranda because I think having him more involved and unapologetic on the defensive side is only a good thing.
JJ, it would seem to be naive to approach it any other way, right? Because when you can see a team rebuild itself in 2 years as opposed to 5, as it used to be before, if you're not using every resource at your disposal in thinking that you can do something in 2 years, you're kind of missing the boat, aren't you?
Man, I think you guys probably heard from me last couple of years. I was really disappointed that we didn't follow up 21. And simply because I thought the rules broke our way. I said that several times, so I'm not going to rehash it. I thought we got comfortable. And Baylor is never in a space where we can get comfortable. And I think if you look at how Coach Drew runs the basketball program, he's not desperate, but Coach Drew doesn't rest on anything. He lost a top 5 pick or whatever. He's going to get another top 5 pick. And he's doing it. He'll fly wherever. So I think we kind of relaxed a little bit after 21, and then we took a little slide. And then by the time we figured it out, that level of desperation you need to play at and to participate at the high level, I think we just missed it that time. Hopefully we've been able to make up some ground here, and we'll be able to figure out what it looks like. We'll find out what it looks like in the fall.
JJ, did you make it to any spring practices by any chance?
No, I didn't, man. Okay. I did not make it. They were going to have the spring game, and, of course, they weren't going to call. I was going to come down, but I didn't make any spring practice. Got some good reports. I talked to John and Ricky about what they were seeing, but never did make it down.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you saw Gary Patterson in Baylor gear, and what your reaction to that was.
Hey, I'll tell you this, man. When I saw it, I didn't see it. I mean, when I heard about Gary coming, and then I've seen, of course, the stuff on, social media, it's kind of like, it's kind of like Twilight Zone, right? Mm-hmm. But everything is turned on its head, man, nowadays, right? They're about the players are playing for – I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. So, Gary, hey, let's just put it this way. Gary is a fantastic football coach. And whether we like him or not, he's a fantastic coach that beat our butt more times than we beat his butt. So I think he can help, and I'm all for it.
Isn't that rivalry, and it really was launched when it was like, way to go Big 12, way to go. Not that it wasn't before, but way to go Big 12 when they had Dalton and all those guys, and they just hammered Baylor, I think, in 2010.
You mean when their current strength coach almost went at a guy in the stands?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. When I remember that.
Yeah. Is it weird how rivalries are, though? Because Baylor can lose to TCU even when they're much better that year. And yet when TCU has a third or fourth string quarterback or whatever, if you'll remember that game, they get a couple of punt returns or a reverse for a touchdown. How weird rivalries work sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, and I think part of it is, generally speaking, and transfers has changed it, these guys kind of know each other. Either they played in the same district, they competed in some camp together, so I think that helps it, and there's no intimidation factor, no matter what the records are. When I was in school, man, we lost to Rice, I think 2 of the 4 years or 3 of the 4 years I was there. It was the craziest thing. They were not any good, but, I mean, a lot of our guys were from Houston. A lot of their guys played in Houston. They knew them. They weren't intimidated. We were 7 in the country. We lose to Rice at home. And it just was – I can't explain rivalries, man, but it happens.
JJ, have you thought about how Coach Taff would approach this era of college football? I mean, he's very much was a traditionalist, and for a long time, I mean, he really didn't want a college football playoff. I mean, he's a coach that believed in a bowl system. How do you think he would approach recruiting and NIL and everything that goes on now?
I think Coach Taft, I don't think he would have pulled a savings. I believe Coach Taft loves coaching, and it depends on what age you're talking with Coach Taft. But Coach Taft was successful when he didn't have anything to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Taft was selling the dream, the blue sky, the dream, man, when he was there. You should have seen the facilities. But I think Coach Taft would have figured it out how to move forward in this era. Would he have been for it? I don't think so. But I think, the position you find yourself in, that guy was going to be successful in any era of coaching that he found himself in.
Can you imagine if he had today's facilities back then?
Dude. When I got to Baylor at Floyd Casey, I remember they were built the end zone facilities then, which is nothing now. And you should have saw the weight room.
Mm-hmm.
The weight room was on the side under the visitors' locker room, and you couldn't even get a quarter of the team in it. You probably could get 20 players in it, if that. And man, he had guys coming. He had Santanas. He had first-round draft choices like James Francis, Robert Blackman. But he got them there, and he got the most out of them.
So, yeah, and they just believed in him, right? He was a great salesman. There's no question. He had his faith, his mission of what he wanted. And was it really looking back at that? That's not the only school that didn't have great facilities back in the day, but was it almost in a way a miracle of how many different players he was getting on campus, the kind of players?
No, I think Coach Taft knew it. He had a great staff. Pete Fredenberg, who won all those championships down at Mary Hart, he was there for many years. I know he wasn't the whole time, but the one thing Coach Taft knew, he knew how to develop players. He knew how to identify and develop. So he went to East Texas. He would get guys who were 5'9", 5'10", 140 pounds, but he knew he was going to put 50 pounds on them. They'd still run a 4.2. He would get his requisite, Santana Dotson, James Francis, Robert Strait. But at the end of the day, what Coach Taft knew is when Coach Taft got in your home in front of your mom, he knew how to sell moms. He knew that if I get the mom, I got the player. And that's, I think his ability to do that, and him selling in your living room, I think it was unparalleled.
Yeah, he was amazing, and we've heard the stories. I don't know if it was Singletary who told the story about when he went to visit Baylor at Floyd Casey back in the day, and it was just like the weight room was like in a closet or something like that, kind of like you were describing it. Yeah, man, love the man to death. Hey, JJ, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback, Baylor color analyst with us on 365 Sports.